This is Summoning Insight. Is it? Actually, it's me and Yamato. So it is Summoning Insight because, spoiler, as I mentioned on that last episode, listen, when you've got a name like that, which, by the way, did come up with myself, just going to put that out there, has endured. It's not like back in the day where everything else was like summon us in and like the difference is those were cheesy. This has endured. It's become its own thing. But obviously, it was iconically Monte Cristo and me, wasn't it? That was the duo. But we wanted to keep the spirit of Summoning Insight going. And then also, I'll let everyone know, it's a straight fire name and people see the name and they click the name. And so obviously the brand is worth continuing on, isn't it? So Yamato, as we explained on the past episode, you can go check that out. Or you can watch the most recent Four Horsemen episode where we actually talk about the state of LFN and Monty stepping away and some of those other things and what the plans are. For example, he will still do a lot of industry topics, even though I said on the last episode, one of the reasons to pick Yamato is not only does he follow all the regions, which by the way, not many people do, but also he is someone who can address a little bit about industry things and has his own takes. But I didn't want it to be like, essentially, people know every time Riot fucks up, it's like, right, set the timer, the next half an hour, it's just me and Monty dry roasting them continuously while calling them motherfuckers and saying how they're all idiots. So the difference is, not everyone can do that. Not just physically, just you have to realize some people might not want to do that. So what I wanted is, Yamato can touch on some of those topics. We'll still bring them up on the show. But to go for the full roast session, that can just go to the Four Horsemen if it's something that's necessary. And as I said, in theory, that also means you get to find out what Richard Lewis thinks about it. And spoiler, he's going to be even more negative about Riot. So there you go. It's going to be a murderer's row for Riot on that one. So, okay, Yamato, we did say as well, like, this is our style, mate. We're not coming in like, fucking pussies. Like, oh, just gently dip my toe in the pool. Is it warm? Can I come in yet? If anything, I'm just telling you, do a fucking barrel roll into this bitch. Just coming off the top board, mate. Because on episode 1, we're going to cover the whole world. So I'm not too ambitious or anything. Don't worry, guys. We're going to start out like this. You're going to see Yamato, obviously, from the other streams anyway. He follows all the regions. Yeah, so you ready? You ready to get into this and do the whole thing, mate?
Bro, I'm so ready, bro. I'm happy that we carry on the Summoning Insight name. I just hope it doesn't turn out to be like a Ghostbusters remake, or like an Oceans remake, or like a Lion King remake. I hope it's not going to be one of those, bro. I'm going to try to honor the name with you, Thorin. So let's rock and roll, man. Where do you want to go first?
Yeah, here's the thing. I actually think since we've just been watching, like if you don't know, we let Yamato, instead of having a set time, it's a bit like when I used to do the Best Damn League show live with Dom. We let him finish the LPL and the LCK games. So why don't we start with one of these regions? Like maybe we start with the LPL, right? LPL is really fun to discuss. So then we'll work our way. Maybe we'll do LEC as the dessert in this analogy. But before that, since this is a fresh episode of Summoning Insight with a brand new guest, and in many ways, this is so hackney, but we're saying hello to him. Why not Hello Fresh, which is the sponsor I'm now seamlessly going to integrate? Because here's the thing about variety is the spice of life. And no, I'm not talking about the Fearless Draft. I'm talking about HelloFresh. So keep your food intake fun and varied with HelloFresh, like a rogue lineup. Never quite know what's going to be in there, do you? Could be all sorts of things. And who knows how it'll turn out? That's half the battle, isn't it? So they will send you the ingredients for us up to a selection of up to 50 wholesome, hassle-free meals each week. It's just delivered to your door. You don't have to go anywhere. They also now, by the way, have their own ready-made meals. This isn't just you get the ingredients, you prep them. They have ready-made meals that you can have in your fridge where basically just 3 minutes and it can just be on your fork and then in your mouth. So you don't have to keep telling me about Carmine Cup. You can just put something delicious in there and yeah, exactly. So no cooking required even necessarily from HelloFresh if you don't feel like it. Bit like G2, didn't feel like cooking this week. You know what? Difference is it took them 20 minutes to get sent home. This just take you 3 minutes to be nice and full and satisfied. So they also have prep and bake meals, which only need 5 minutes of prep, and then you just put it in the oven, basically. So they've actually also tailored it, so it isn't just the original concept of just the ingredients and you make it all yourself. They've got like different stages to it as well. By the way, I have previously literally used this service myself, long before they sponsored us, as just a personal private customer. I have paid for these services because, I'm actually not someone who's like a mega cook. It's not really like one of my strengths. I will say, though, and I actually have always credited this type of service is actually what made me get a little bit into cooking, though, because the problem with cooking is it's so daunting because even though you'll find online recipes, the reason why grandma always cooks it better than you isn't just that she cooks it with love, which certainly she does, I would hope, if you have someone with a nice background, but also she knows, like, when she says, like, and then a handful of this, you don't know what the handful means though, mate. Like, that's the secret, is knowing like a little bit more, a little bit less. Then she even knows like what your particular tastes are. One of the mega things about this service I've found is they send you all the ingredients and they give you just the right amount of each. And also, what you quickly learn about a bunch of dishes you already think you know is actually you're just doing the basic version of that with like 4 ingredients. They'll give you like 2 or 3 extra little, a sauce, a spice, or something here that you wouldn't think to add. Maybe that's like the pro level, but adding that is really what brings out the flavors, what makes it taste really good. And even though I'm not a good cook, I have to say, first of all, it's fairly idiot-proof. You just follow the instructions. And I have even found, even when I semi-fucked up and it didn't look like what it was supposed to on the picture, or I didn't get the timing perfect, because they're adding in such a great like flavor balance, it actually pretty much always tasted better than I expected, or just actually pretty good. I think I've had very few where I was like, either I messed it up or it just tasted bad. So I have to say, I think it's a mad underrated service. So get up to 10 free meals and a high protein free item for life at HelloFresh.com/LFN10FM. So it's LFN10FM. 1 item per box with active subscription. Free meals applied as discount on the first box. New subscribers only. Varies by plan. That's up to 10 free HelloFresh meals. Just go to HelloFresh.com/LFN10FM. Thank you to HelloFresh, and thank you to anyone who chooses to use that service and support us. Again, I actually just recommend it as a service. It's actually legit. I've used it myself in the past. Right, should we get into it, Arto? Should we go straight to the LPL? Speaking of cooking, the craziest region in the history of League of Legends for cooking is the LPL, mate. And this is the region where the first time I heard that they're going to do worldwide Fearless Draft, I was like, oh, Lordy, what is that LPL going to be like? And even worse, Yamato, it's not just a Fearless Draft. We're doing Fearless Draft and Atakan. We're just adding these elements to the Fearless Draft. That's like just putting fuel on a fire and just fucking lighting a match, like that's good. That's going to be bonkers. So give me the initial thoughts before we get into specific teams. What do you think so far of the implementation of things like Atakan, Fearless Draft? What are your initial thoughts?
I do think that teams that are just mechanically good get away with so much more because the progression of the game is a lot, like it just doesn't require any brain. So when you have like these teams, like LGD is a very, very good example where they have like a bunch of players coming out of LDL, new names. One of the guys called XQW, you have YCX, and you just see them like drifting in terms of how they play mechanically. And in previous years, that got you only so far. You would see this team do something good, something beautiful, and it's like, they will eventually lose because like the maneuvering of the waves and how you have to progress the map is very specific. But now it's just very, very streamlined. Get your objectives, be ready to fight, and just mechanically test yourself. So we get to see kind of a deeper layer to players that maybe in other cases wouldn't offer more. And I think that's true for like LPL as a whole. Like a lot of mechanical demons are definitely standing out more so than ever before.
By the way, even though later we will talk about LEC, I actually did think, shout out to Kazi, because he went from just having that really weird social media style where it was all about like him writing fan fictions about him having homoerotic relations with fucking humanoids. I never really got that was, you know what? Not judging you. You do you, mate. I never vibed with that. He's actually now gotten a really good sarcastic Twitter game though, because I did think that comment he made almost made me laugh out loud, where he was like, how do we get the other Atakan? Because obviously in his team, it's Lunatics and Nillasag, isn't it? So the joke is they don't even get that one. Like that in itself was fucking hilarious, because what people don't realize is, I actually made this point on the last episode, I do feel like COS League is like vaguely similar to how it's always been. You've got the Baron and you've got the things, you've got the tower. I do think people in history just look at teams and act like every year the game's the same. But just like I said, at Worlds, actually the underrated narrative is how T1 were the team that emphasized the grobs. Actually, there were other teams that gave that up, and I tell you what, T1 had a very unique style of doing it. I feel like that's another thing people have to look at with the Atakan thing. It's not just what roster you've got and is it a good team and good player. This is going to be like whoever like seizes on how to use these objectives in the game. It's clearly going to give you an edge in the game. Like pretty swear, we were just watching before we went live that Freaks versus the DRX series. Like that's an example of how not to use the fucking Atakan. I don't even know what they were doing there, mate. I thought the game should have been over. We should have been live like 20 minutes ago, but for whatever reason, they just gave it up. So it's clearly going to be like a big game-changing mechanic, right?
100%. I think that like the main thing is just like the map shape is very unique there. It's like in terms of how teams control the tri-bush, like on both sides is very unique. And at the same time, knowing that it can spawn on 2 sides is kind of random in terms of Like if you have to enter through the tribush side, it does seem a lot more difficult. And now we're trying to figure out like which arc, like kind of arcs you need to create in order to collapse on the Atakan, and the walls that also kind of put you in a position where you are in fog of war. The additional detail that is so strange about Atakan is that first it does a shit ton of damage, it kind of murders you, reduces your MR and armor way more than Nasher, and at the same time you can pull it around. Like Atakan likes to move, he gets his cardio in, like you could just pull him and he just disappears for like a solid 15 seconds, way further than the Rift Herald. So it's like in terms of playing the position, it's definitely something that teams are figuring out. Like I think G2 is a great example of like a team that just did it very, very bad and like lost 2 games straight up off of it. And then additionally, it's like in terms of using Atakan, what I've seen the better teams do is that they kind of wait with Atakan to make it kind of cross over into the window of Nasher. It's like when you take the Nash, like the Atakan at 20 minutes, it doesn't seem to be as powerful, because then you see these awkward situations like in this DRX game. Even though Nash was indeed alive, they just tried to like push, and they was like, oh guys, I guess we should fight. So they just like try like right click the enemy team, walk into them. It just looks so damn stupid. So we've seen both sides of it, but I guess over time teams will eventually figure it out. But I think the standout is post 23, post 24, people just use it to get the Nasher, and then they just kind of make sure that all waves are pushed, so there's no like trades of side. I think that's like the crucial detail, because if you can push all 3 lanes and the enemy needs to kind of send 2 people, 3 people to stop you, that's where you get the value in terms of like the turret pushes. So I think that's probably the best use case for Atakan so far that I've seen.
I will say, I'm not someone, by the way, who's like averse to change and adding new things and making the game different or varied or harder. But my problem always is this, is obviously if you add or remove or change something, I want it to be a net positive change. I want it to improve the game. I want it to make watching the game better, studying the game better, like excellent like stories to matches, why you win's not random. It's one thing I do worry about a little bit is what you said, is I keep getting worried that the general trend in League of Legends, ever since they went to that dragon meta, where the dragon isn't just gold, etc., or above, it's like you get the specific elemental dragons, etc. Ever since they went to that, it does seem like the trend in general is they're trying to like simplify macro, because I feel like the main thing they were concerned with is, it is true, the number one reason why Koreans were almost unbeatable back in the day, in your day when you were in the Vitalities, etc., was absolutely that like, it didn't even matter if you had the same hands, they would just have way better macro at the end of the game than you. And I always said, unfortunately, when you got to that dragon meta, it did become like Fisher Price like macro. It's just like, right, press this button, like Elmo, hey, it's my birthday. It's like, no, before that you had to construct the song yourself and the melody and the music, you know, like you didn't just push a button like push Baron, then push Dragon. No, leave that Dragon. No, we're going to go for this Baron, get the Herald now. It became a little bit simpler. So I'm always worried if it looks like you simplify it, because actually one of the things I always appreciated, I mean, I'll give you an obvious example. Actually, the main thing I thought G2 had with Mickey X, yeah, he clearly had some issues as a support and he would sometimes fuck up with his hands. But tell you what, that guy would make like one really smart macro move like every series, it felt like, and that was actually pretty OP to have. It could rescue you sometimes or get you back into a game. So one of the only concerns I have is I don't want the game to become too obvious as to how you play it and how you win, because I actually always thought, I mean, to give an example, I won't say who, but behind the scenes, there are some really good players who are still top players or still in the scene now, who, if you ask them ever since that Dragon meta came in, they do tell you like, oh, I do feel like the game got dumbed down and like certain things, like, put it this way, this isn't one of them, but if I was to ask your boy Nuke Duck, you used to coach him back in the day, this guy lived in a fucking side lane. His whole strength was, if you didn't understand how side lanes work and the strength of his champion and what pressure he's going to put, you are going to lose the game. And even worse, that way of losing the game is really infuriating to an opponent. You feel like a moron when you don't know when do I go. If we go now, fuck, you sent too many, and that gives us a chance to end us. Like, that was actually, you had a lot of strategy in the game back then. There was a lot of ways to play the game. The problem was, yeah, you can still side lane, but you're always doing it still to come back to an objective, to come back to the Baron, come back to the thing, whatever. Do you have concerns about that at all?
I do think definitely with like the addition of Atakan, because like last year we saw the evolution of let's call it like Caps macro, in terms of like in the past, players would always like perceive like unknown threats as, oh, I shouldn't die, I shouldn't pressure. But now I think that a lot more players are doing real time like estimations and calculations in terms of what they need to invest to actually push you off waves. It's like I think Caps is probably like the player that has inspired the most people in the West, where like he did these things on Tristana where you could estimate, like he could 1v2, he could play, and he would always like push sides very, very deep with very limited information, but understand his champion's relation to everybody else's, where a lot of mid laners would be like, oh, they're missed, they're fogging into my side, I'm going to back up. And I think that part of the game evolved last year specifically, but now in 2025, like with Atakan, the games are just so damn fast. And it's like the average game time, I think, has gone down by plenty. It's just you're so incentivized to group because these objectives just swing the game way too hard. Whether it's like giving 6 groups to one team or like even above 4 plus, it just it incentivizes you so harshly to just be there. Atakan the same thing, Nash the same thing, and that definitely like removes the aspect of the setup. Sure, there's like elements to gain in terms of like position to be first on objectives because you maintain control over side, which I think is there. But I do think from Riot's side, I guess they don't want to be in a scenario where fights are like predetermined by things that are just invisible to the average viewer. Like we had this discussion last time, right? When we were talking with Monty, where T1, like before they changed like the map in terms of how that wall is, it's like everything is just about that banana bush, control it and you can fight. Before that, it was like T1 created these like networks of like how they connected and pushed people out, and that's how they won their first world championship with that roster 2023. And then they changed it, and all of a sudden fighting just became so streamlined and also became more common, which I think from a viewer's perspective, I get it. But I know from our side, it's like we want to see the chess game. Like I appreciate the chess game. It's like I get excited when it's like, oh look, he stole this wave, and my viewers are like, what the fuck is he talking about? Like nothing happens. Like he stole a wave and changed the whole game, you know?
Sure. Right, okay, let's get into some teams then. Look, obviously, we'll just start to establish for the fans what this show's going to be like. If IG had won, we would now do a 20-minute IG Glaze session. Unfortunately, they not only didn't win, they looked really dodgy, and I'm really scared, Yamato, because here's the thing. You know that fucking classic poster of the like flying, so I want to believe. That's me with this team, mate. I so want to believe that this team can do everything, because as I said on the past episode, IG used to just be hands, and then actually jungle and support was where you were like, bro, they even going to have anything legit from this? Surely they just win from hands. In theory, now they've also got really established jungle and support and players who could be really good. So on paper, roster looks fucking great. The only real obvious concern is people wonder how will the Shy do and will he int and will he allow them to get their macro off and stuff. The problem is, not only did they lose their first series, but also, you know what? I'm just honest, Yamato. I have massive respect for Doinby's game, but he's one of those people who it's really frustrating because all my favorite players just get beaten by this guy because he's just the fucking mega mind, isn't he? He's just like a genius at League of Legends. I don't know how every team he's on just starts to take his personality and his sort of style, and they just all become like interesting macro teams, and they play out the game differently. I mean, he's only been back for like 5 minutes, and already he's already pissing all over my dreams for IG. What did you think of this series?
Honestly, like what Doiby did, I really didn't think it was fucking possible, man. I really thought like his hiatus, he does like this whole stream persona. He was basically like fucking XQC overseas, you know, in terms of how he shouts and screams, and he just comes back and like performs out of his damn mind. It was like the first game, like on Victor, Rookie kind of outplayed him, but it just didn't really matter in the end because like his Rise performance, Lee Sin performance, what he was doing in that game, he was just running around like Pepsi Man. I don't know if you played that game growing up, you know, like on that Rise on the Flash Ghost. Like he was like, it was also like a difficult Rise game to execute, but all the memes just remained true. And like on the flip side though, like IG was driving me nuts, man. Like IG, I have to say, like as it kind of hit me, you know, I was like Gala and Rookie on the same team. These are like the two most cursed players of all time. Like maybe are they gonna cancel each other out, or is it going to be amplified? And I saw some amplification there because what Mako did, I don't know, like Lulu, I don't know how many times the fight started with him just getting Viego W'd on the Lulu. JJ also lost his mind a couple of times, bad flashes, bad team fighting, and don't get me started on the Shy. Like the Shy with this Jax build, and there's Jax with, like his Karma. Like what was that? Archangel Randon's Omen. He finds a way. It's like we all know how dirty this man can get, but somehow he manages to surprise us all. Karma with Archangel Staff Randon's Omen. Just I'm mind blown. I just can't imagine the conversation in the back room. It's like they look over. It's like, what did you expect? Is that what he says? Just, what did you expect? I am the Shy. And then the review is over. He just walks out the room. It's
Put it
just,
this way, luckily, because the champion Ambessa was in that series, I can say that absolutely, when the Shy plays like that, he deserves to have her ultimate done to him. Public execution. Like,
oh,
that was
Jesus.
a public execution series to Shy. The thing is, Yamato, what tilts me about the Shy is, obviously he's always had these classic I've always said I've never seen a player whose peak is as high as it, but then also has the craziest lows ever. Like, if you think of the greatest top laners of all time, they tend to have actually a very good floor to their game. Like, if you pick like Smeb or even Zeus, they don't tend to have that many games where they just like turn the brain off and in the whole game. They either play like an all right game or they play awesome. The problem with the Shy is this is exactly the sort of game where it's like, bro, we're never beating the allegations if this guy does these games. Like, they're never going to believe you were the GOAT, mate, if you play like this. Because I agree, like, there was some fucking criminal games in this series from him. He's got to get his shit together because now there's no excuse now. Here's the other problem I have. In some of the past lineups he was in, maybe every player wasn't great. So you say, hey, he could be a win condition. Here's the key thing for me. He has to be not a losing condition, Yamato. I don't need him to be the Shy from 2018 every game now. I just need the odd game like that. But then we've got it. That's what we're saying. Gala and Rookie, two of the most consistent players. They're both really good meta players. Like, you don't have to be the Shy every game, bro. And definitely, please don't be the bad Shy every game. Like, don't risk it that much. Because I agree with you. Like, the support in the jungle, I give them a break. They're brand new to the team. They're working with each other. Who knows what the shot calling was in past teams? Maybe each of them decided what was done. Who knows? But in this team, the Shy is definitely not beating the allegations so far, mate. It's bad. It's bad.
It's so bad. I don't know. I just imagine this personality to be like, I know you know the lore buff, but he's just like Draven incarnate. You know, it's just wants fucking attention. You know, he just stands there in the arena as people shout his name. Like,
True.
the more people in the arena, the better he plays. Because even like the last time in the Weibo run, like, he had some dirty games. It's like that famous Gragas combo he did, right? And like, Weibo just got him over the finish line because they like got in way in summer, and he was performing super hard. Zhao, who had like one of the best like individual performances too, Light also super solid, crisp, better than the than before. And then when it came to the World Championship, suddenly the Shy is like, damn, what are you doing to my boy Bin with your Graves and your counter picks, and you have the guts to just play Quinn like this? It's like, oh, I think he just loves the attention. It's just like kind of waking up and playing these LPL matches. It's just kind of fucking whatever. It's like, I think it just seems, from outside, it just seems to be the most uncoachable player ever. Because I think it's like, in the state of mind he's in, you just kind of have to let him be and just drag him over the finish line and just hope that like stars align on the day that it matters the most. Because this NIP series was dirty, man. Like, on the flip side, though, bro, like NIP, like, the support cast, because I was very skeptical about this team. I thought Leave had very bad games and good games on EDG, like in the most recent time, like after the benching with the whole drama with JJ like flaming on like.
Oh, he never came back the same player he was in that spring split when everyone was hyping him. He was more up and down for sure,
And he definitely got caught a lot, but mechanically he's definitely there. I think the two players that stood out is just Shanji and PP God. Like, these guys played super good. Shanji was way better. I was concerned about Shanji from last year because it did feel like now that the Kisante kind of Rumble thing is like public, like everyone's in the loop about how strong these champions are. I thought that he kind of lost his magic, kind of tried to like refine that with like Nasus picks and so forth. But he played the standard shit. Like, the Relic game was wonderful. I think as a kind of these roles around Doinby, it does look that this team has a lot more potential than I expected, because a lot of those names I just kind of sold them out after the previous year. So exciting for NIP with IG, man. I don't know where we're going from here.
Here's the problem. That's where it gets awkward in the conversation. Because again, if we were going to do a Glaze session, well, two problems I have to bring up. One, not only did Rookie have some sus games, like, by the way, the Azir was not it for Rookie. I'm sorry, it just wasn't. But even worse, Yamato, if like me, and I know you are, you were the guy who was doing like the Rookie apologist, like Defense League last year, where you were like, no, he's still good. Like, give him a chance. Look him on the Zeri. Look at this. Look, all you were doing, I'm sure you did the same thing as me was, look, he has to play with fucking Shanji and Aki. They're not even good. They're on fucking nip, and they just beat him. What are we supposed to say now? That's pretty bad. That's a bummer, isn't it?
It's over, bro. It's like the other team in the group, like FPX looks disastrous, but RNG, Milky Way played good. They could pick up a victory if IG offer it. It's like IG in the current form against RNG, like, that's an exciting series that definitely can go either way if that's what fucking the Shy is offering. Is this Milky Way, I think, had a fantastic series. I think FPX should be like free loot. in this group, but considering like only two groups go out and then it's a long ass vacation, it gets dangerous very very fast in the LPL because it's just a single round robin.
Yeah, yeah. If people forget, that is also the key difference for this first split. It's not the LPL. First of all, the LPL changed last year anyway to be the groups into the groups, but it's not the old LPL where you just play like 15 best of threes or whatever. So you have, in that scenario, this is another thing I actually think for real, Yamato. LPL players are going to have to update how they play the game in the same way as the LEC players did when you went from being the giant 9-week split to, if you don't get through these BO, like the 3 games at the beginning, you just cooked basically. Like you can't, the problem here is, the old LPL format was genius in the sense that it allowed people to fuck around in draft on game 1, but then win the other 2. It allowed people to do stuff like lose a bunch of games early, but then as long as you cook in the middle of the split, you can go back. I'm with you. Essentially, if people don't realize, if they just fuck up against RNG, it's just over for split 1. Like in 3 weeks, IG could already be done until the spring split. That requires a different sort. I feel like teams and coaches have to really change how they approach the games. You can't experiment and gamble as much, I feel like.
No, 100%. I think like thinking back to like previous LPL seasons, I don't know how many times a team makes like a miraculous run through the gauntlet after being like very very sloppy. Like Wave was an example because they started out with Tarzan last year and it looked very very sloppy in the beginning. They tried to incorporate him and then he found his footing and then they ramped up and like went through the gauntlet. And that's something that has happened in the past too. It's like you have these teams that are very dominant in the regular season. LNG is usually that team, like in the Scout Tarzan era. And then when it came to like their first BO5, they always kind of lost that one with teams that were ramping up. And now everything is just super, super fast. It's all go, go, go. And you kind of hope that the pressure activates, the big game players. But to have that activate so soon, it's still cold. It's January, it gets funky very, very fast with this format.
But one thing I will say, if you want to pivot a bit, is even though Weibo has already played like the lesser names, they haven't played JDG, which was the match everyone obviously wants to see. I will say at this point, Yamato, a narrative that absolutely I can pick up for this performance so far is, I'm not joking, bro. Zhao Hu might be one of the most insane players you can just put anyone around. As long as you give him competent players, every team works with this guy somehow. Like, they're never, like, totally terrible. Like, and by the way, as he showed in this first, like, couple of weeks, you already saw this last year at Worlds. This is one of the players who clearly went to fucking work on that Aurora as soon as it came out. Like, this guy understood way before a lot of the other teams how to use it, made it a threat where I think it's one of the players you have to ban this against. I think it's one of his best champions, mate.
I feel like there's so many parallels between Jahu and Faker in terms of how they are as players. I do think that it's like when it comes to like some of the mechanical champions, there's definitely like moments where Jahu is lacking, like whether it's like the Tristana or like some moments, but he has like the Lucian in the back pocket, that's like a Jahu classic that he played a lot in the previous year. The Aurora was fantastic even at the World Championship now too. I do think that it's like when I look at his Weibo roster, I do think Jahu is a player that pairs better with the junglers like Tarzan. Like I have this specific category of junglers where I put basically Tarzan, Kanavi, Canyon, and then maybe Lucid. He's growing on me. Okay. Where like these junglers are junglers capable of like really driving games through them, while Tian is like a fantastic facilitator. I don't see him being that guy to be like 100 CS head on Lilia and just like completely destroying the game. But I think in terms of how this roster is built up, Jahu, Tian being facilitators, I do think it puts a spotlight on how good Light has been too, I think Light is one of the most underrated ADCs.
You almost never heard his name mentioned last year, but even last year he cooked, bro. He was just really good, yeah.
Like if someone told me I think Light was the best performing AD of the last year, I would be like, I'm down.
It's not an outrageous statement, no.
It's like Light was so damn good in that meta, and I think that he's been so damn consistent, even in their world run. It's like thinking back at what the meta kind of walked in. It's like Weibo Gaming got to the finals because their bot lane was capable of making the shifts into the T1 meta that nobody else on the other side of the group managed to do. You saw the JDG try, and they were not in the same pocket, and then all of a sudden you see Light playing the Caitlyn. They were willing to play like the range matchups. They were willing to play the Senna. And I think Light is just an extremely underrated player, and Breathe has also been improving. Back on the point of Jahu, I do think it's like I will just leave it again with rephrasing, this or just saying again the parallel between him and Faker in terms of what they are in regionally. I think is very very similar.
Yeah, that's one thing where I've done this as hot takes on my hot take point made League of Legends short set. By the way, we'll be coming back and we'll do the takes from fans, etc. One of the things that I always said, Zhao Hu is who people think Faker is because to me, look, obviously I'll give it to Faker in the sense that he's had all these clutch players at Worlds. Zhao Hu hasn't done that yet at Worlds. He's just been like, all right at Worlds, or he's had the odd good run, you know. But I will say, if you want to look at people who are captains from mid lane, like they clearly understand shot calling, macro, they can work with different types of players. And I look, this is a bit more debatable to people now because everyone's remembering that like Stylized Chovy game of Faker at Worlds. In general, I actually would even give the edge slightly to Zhao Hu on the mechanics. I have seen splits in the last few years where you also mechanically could be up to par. It's just that they're not like, neither of them are in their prime individually, and crucially, as you're saying, they don't even try to play that way, mates. They actually understand this idea that essentially what I bring to the game is my experience, my overview of the game. So the point is, if you give them other pieces that are dangerous, if you give Faker, Zeus, and Gumayusi, he can do something with that, mate. If Onan's following him everywhere on the map, he can somewhat shot call or play make with these guys. And it's not just about out-handsing people and doing the craziest highlight ever. They'll beat you with their brain. And Zhao, for me, is definitely in that category. It's just maybe people don't know his personality as well because he's from China and he doesn't do as much media stuff. But I see this. I think this guy's one of the geniuses in League of Legends, bro.
Definitely, like one of the best. Like just looking at his career, it's like one of the best ones to have played for sure. Like he should be like in the top 10, like in the conversation of players.
Yeah.
Like in terms of what he has done, like at MSI, his role switch to top lane, just be like one of the best top laners from like instantly almost, like really completely revamping how people even play top lane in terms of like the champions and just kind of making fun of top laners in a region where top laners are demons. Like, LPL top laners are just straight up demons. I think the main thing, I think you hit it on the head, is like the big difference is just like the world's runs are just not good for Zhao Hu. Like the world's runs are tough, man.
It's a bit of a close world's career, doesn't he?
Yeah, that's just always like RNG and the Zhao Hu Worlds runs are just really cursed. Last year at Worlds was also, it's like Aurora looked good, everything else was just kind of suffering. He tried to play what he's comfortable with, but it just didn't land the same. But I do think like regionally, Zhao Hu seems to be rallying like the right players around him. The roster building is always like in the right place around him, and I think Weibo should still be like a competitor in the LPL for sure.
I'll give you this one last angle as well, which is one of my favorite NFL players is the quarterback Aaron Rodgers, who's a really skilled player. What happened was when he'd had an injury and he came back from injury like 4 or 5 years ago, he had a year where for him, the numbers were like, 2/3 of what they normally would be in terms of like production. And so people were saying like, oh, you've had a bit of a down year. And he said, yeah, but if you ever look at it though, what for me is a down year would be like a career year for someone else. Zhao Hu has that factor, right? If people don't know, these last 2 years weren't even good years for Zhao Hu. Like the 2023, he was actually, people thought he was washed. Somehow he tripped over, was in the World's Finals. Then this last year, again, before summer, before they got Tarzan, no one thought Weibo was going to be at fucking Worlds. They not only did that, they were in the final of the LPL. They had no business being there, by the way. Then went to Worlds, and then were still in the playoffs, and people forget. If they hadn't have drawn BLG, who even knows? Maybe they would have been in the semis. Maybe they could have had a cheeky run. They weren't a bad team. I always thought in that Swiss, they sort of like were slightly better than people thought. They would sort of like win games where it just got messy. So again, this guy, if you're a normal League of Legends player, bro, if I get to go to World's Final or I'm getting to be in the LPL final, that must be the best year of my career. Those are fucking down years for this guy. Those aren't even the years he'll remember like 10 years from now. I agree. What an unbelievable career he's had. The longevity, all the different teammates, that's another thing. How many teammates has he had now, mate? It's not, people originally used to do that thing where they made it like RNG was just Uzi Eye and 4, background dancers. No, actually what people missed was Zhao Hu was fucking insane back then too. And and the difference is, he's outlasted Uzi Eye. He's just still going now. That's why also he's comparable to Fake. It's also insane they're still even relevant in their major regions in like 2025. Guys, they've been doing it for 10 plus years. It's bonkers.
It's absolutely crazy. Bro, I'm stealing this Aaron Rodgers thing. I don't know shit about NFL.
That's a great line.
I need this one. I need this one to protect Chovy sometimes, because sometimes I have to protect my boy Chovy. It's like a bad game for Chovy, bro. It's your best game of some of your other homies, So I'm stealing this one. I'm putting it in the back pocket, man.
Exactly. Right. Let's go on. How about you pick a team? Pick a team you want to talk about.
Ooh. Honestly, I kind of like JDG's like opening game. I liked them, bro. They kind of remind me of, they kind of remind me of LNG, of like the previous version. It's like they seem to be very, very controlled in their approach. I liked how they played, and like you mentioned, the Weibo game and JDG matchup. I think that's kind of hype. Like their opening game was pretty damn solid. Like they controlled the flow of the game just through and through. I think that Ale kind of looked sometimes, a little bit all over the place, and maybe this is the guy that should be like the concern, because I do think there's like maybe 4 or 5 top laners above him that can definitely like put him in the bin. I didn't want to make this pun, but it happened. But in regards to everything else, it's like Missing looked good. CV Max was doing his like regular cooking, with the Nidalee for Shun, that he's known for. We saw a scout on Jace. Pays looked fantastic. I'm just curious to see, always when you have teams moving from big teams and they kind of have to reinvent themselves, it usually goes in 2 directions. Like either they fall flat completely or they just elevate to the next level. And I think this was like a good step in the right direction for Pays in terms of what he showed. Fantastic Ziggs performance. I don't remember who else he played, but I do remember that he played super well. So I'm very excited for that JDG Weibo matchup, because Weibo like dropped the game against like World Elite. I was like, what the hell are they doing? Well, this is like the Weibo we know. It's like they slowly ramp up, and you kind of don't get concerned about the occasional game that they drop. It's okay.
No, I'm with you, because I actually do I think it's just because Pays joined at the very end almost of the off season, so people weren't like prepared for JDG to be good, and then you Ruler left. Remember, anytime someone like Ruler leaves, you think the team's gonna be shit now, isn't it? Like, I actually think low key they sort of cooked with this roster, mate. Like, because it's not just the names. Like, by the way, I think every name on this roster is good. Like, I've for years now, bro. One of the ways I know people don't watch the LPL is they only remember Ale from a million fucking years ago on LNG at Worlds, like 3 or 4 years ago at this point in time. They don't know this guy was fucking really good. Like on EDG, he was like a mini The Shy. He could have just carry performance. He could have the odd game that was shit too, certainly, but he could have real carry performances. And actually, in a world where like Bin was just the shit in top lane, there was very few players could ever go head to head with him. That's why people did give praise to the 369s and Zekas of the world. Ale was in that one for me. For me, he was a prospect. So I even thought it was kind of cool they filled out the roster. As you said with Jun, mate, I think it's actually, I don't know what happened internally that they benched Zun and brought Wayne. Now they chose not to take him now. I thought Zun was the better jungler personally, especially because if you think of Spring last year, mate, he was fucking sick. And his hands are real. He has some like canyon hands, mate. He is a really talented player. So what I love is, as you say, CV Max looks like he's playing to him, mate. He's gonna give this guy a chance. If JDG's good, like it's actually someone like Zun that'll have a chance to be the MVP, mate. Like he's actually gonna have a lot of impact on games, it looks like. And yeah, you just look at the roster. There's no bad players in this roster, mate. It's just about if they can get the blend right. And I'm with you. The Weibo game, by the way, perfect chance to see. Let's see if they're good enough.
Yeah. I'm with you. I think Shun, it's that Billy story is so strange, because it just seems it's weird to say from outside, but Billy just seems like the players just seem happier. They seem like more in tune with how Shun is. It's like I watched like these behind the scenes videos, and it just seems like it's like Shun and Bin is like the homies. They're the homies,
Oh,
like
God, they got to Yamato, guys.
They got to me, because bro, all these SmackDown episodes, bro.
He's doing that thing where it's like, oh, look at the way that Shun laid his head on the shoulder of. Oh God,
I blame Kazi, bro. I blame Kazi, because Kazi really the SmackDown episode. The story is just too crazy. Where he's like, I don't want to do a trial with players. I want to go out and drink with them. That's how I figure out if the team's going to work or not,
You've got to remember not to have a drink with Hillisang right before the game, mate. He has to be in the game, that's your problem. Too much Jameson, too much Jameson on the rocks. I think that's the problem there. So
no,
we'll get to that criminal behavior later.
Shun is just like such a high ceiling,
Yeah.
I feel like the MSI thing kind of.
Yes,
made him seem very.
Mate. Yeah,
he just seems so one-dimensional in his approach. But I just felt like that was Billy's problem as a whole. I do think like when Wei come in, they played a lot more controlled games, and I can imagine from a coach's side that feels like really good. Sure. It just seems like that Wei seems to be like more of a play that they can direct, and maybe they just believe that they have enough firepower on that roster to go. Because Shun is a wild cannon, and I think that team has enough wild cannons. So I can see the argument for, but I do think the best version of Billy was indeed the one we saw with Shun, because in the end he did like save their Worlds run, because it started quite bad with Wei.
No, I'll tell someone is if someone is still underrates this player, Go watch the Nidalee game 1 that Yamato referenced, and then you tell me how many LEC junglers could do that on Nidalee. Like, you just let me know, because I've always said that in the same way as classically Fiora or Jace in the top lane was like the difference between East and West. Nidalee jungle is a massive fucking reason. It's one of the reasons, by the way, why I do glaze the fuck out Razork. He can play that Nidalee jungle bit. A lot of the others can't. They won't even lock it in, bro. They don't want to play that. And actually, you'll see this split because of Fail's Trap. People might have to play that sometimes. So I don't think there's not many players can play that. So like I said, I actually think he's unleashed now, mate. Or unleashed or whatever. You can figure it out. You know, you can do something with that. We'll workshop that. We'll come back to that on a later episode. I'll have one of my minions write that down and we'll workshop that to be better. So it's all good. I'll pick a team now then. We'll go team for team. We'll do that on the initial one just to keep it interesting. Because obviously we're not going to talk about everyone. Right, an obvious one to bring up is Billy. Because here's the thing. I think when you look at this roster, because they did keep a roster that won the LPL last year in the summer split, and I agree with you. I thought it was slightly going off Worlds, and I think it was the right move to bring Jun back in. I even think you saw the way he played, and by the way, he was just better on Skarner. That's just a fact, in my opinion. I actually think when you look at this roster, bearing in mind, EDG is irrelevant now, guys. Like, that is not a dangerous group for BLG. They're almost certainly going to get out this group and probably in first place. To me, I don't even look at this team like, you know, can they be their best? This is the team for me that you should be looking at. The IG glazing's half a joke. This is the team that you look at and ask, can they do the Golden Road? That's actually a real plot. When you have players of this level, that is a plausible discussion to have. So what I would ask is, obviously, we've only seen the one series. What are your thoughts on BLG? Any fears or concerns for this split or going forwards?
Not really. Like they seem to just have fun in that series. It was very reminiscent of like previous years. It's like you could see like there was that game where Knight was playing Swain and he was just like fucking around. Like it was a horrible Swain spot and he just picked it and you could just see him giggling, you know, on stage, you know, he's just having fun. It seems like Billy is just, until they lose, I will believe in them, you know? It's like, but that's the thing. I'm with you in the sense that these guys should have the ambition to win it all. Like if they lose an LPL split, that would be like insanely shocking, because in terms of how they should maneuver around Fearless, which is like the chaotic element of winter, these guys should be like primed, because like On plays everything, Elk plays everything, Knight plays more than everything, and Bin is also just like has adapted himself to be very multi-dimensional. Wei plays less champions, but I don't think that he's ever going to be like in the crosshairs of anything when you're preparing against fucking Billy. You need to target the other homies on that team, and I do think that the chaotic element of Fearless is going to be an environment where Billy can thrive. And I think maybe that would be like the hot take angle, because I do think the LCK looks by far and beyond like the top three, looks insanely strong. How Alive, like Genji just looks, in terms of gameplay, just looks demonic, even though they played like that close game. But it's like, if the hot take is that Billy could win the first stand, it would be because, this is a team that should thrive in, of course, Fearless environments, knowing how crazy LPL can get and knowing these players' champion pools.
What's funny is, even though for Bin, I mean, people might not know, but last split in the LPL, Bin was just playing like 4 champions, because he was the guy who could just like first pick a jack anywhere and then just win. Like he was just so good on his champions. Like, why wouldn't you play to him? I actually think that I agree with you, Yamato. I actually think one of the players who will benefit the most from Fearless Draft is fucking Knight. And the reason why is, do you know what one of the most frustrating things is if you watch the LPL all these years? Right back to when he first came in like 2019 and he was this prospect, is this guy in the LPL had Champion Ocean every year. He was like 10 champions. And we're not talking about you just lock in 10 champions. I'm talking he could get wins on the 9th and the 10th champion, and there can be stuff outside his comfort zone. But then every time he went to Worlds, he would just pick the most meta chat. He would just pick like fucking Oriana or like Galio. And it's like, bro, listen, you're good on some of these champions too, but I actually always hated that at Worlds. In fact, I actually think this Worlds final was one of the few times I've ever seen him pick what looked strong for him. Oftentimes, he looked like he would just default to the meta, or it looked almost like he just took what his coaches pick. But I've always thought this guy never flexed at Worlds. His crazy champion pool. Like, this guy really has the matchups where there's just one side of the matchup you can't play, and he can play that one, or he can play, again, champions that aren't even meta at the moment. I actually think in Fearless, in BO5, when he's going to be forced in some of those game 4s and 5s to play the other ones, that's where it's going to be dope. Because another reason why I don't want a guy like this playing the Galio, even though he's good on it, is Bro, the reason why a faker plays Galio is then he cannot take his mind off using the hands and fucking play the map. You've got the hands! Like, I always think it's only that Chovy exists, people don't go crazy on Knight. This guy's skill level's unbelievable. I want this guy all day on the Silases of the world and the fucking super hard carry champs. Like, this guy could be a monster. So I always felt like sometimes, I don't know whether it's confidence where he listens to the code, I don't know what it was, but every Worlds I always felt like, except for this last one, I never really saw the full Knight that was the LPL MVP and all first team stuff. I feel like Fearless, for a player like him, it's just going to force him to play the other champions. You're just going to see that he can go. This guy, I think, can always go 7-8 champions deep, mate. He's just got that game somehow.
100%. I just would like just going through his catalog, like one of the best Syndras in the world, one of the best Silases in the world. The Ari win ratio was just like a big storyline always, just following like, can anyone beat his Ari? Like he plays the mages. Like the main thing that was always lacking for him is Azir. That one looks kind of goofy, but like he could drop like 10 kill bangers on a Corki. He could drop a 10 kill banger on a Lucian. I think that like the main thing was maybe like an MSI. I think that was. I think MSI was just Chovy being so far above anybody else because nobody could really like operate Aurelion Sol and Corki at the level that Chovy did. So like everyone just banned that shit against him. Then he had like the Talia in the back pocket. I do think that Knight as a player, just champion pool wise, he should just be ready for anything. If I follow up, is the last two teams I would just bring up because they're kind of in the same box. It's like LGD and TT. I think it's like LGD specifically, like I mentioned them earlier, it's like in terms of just being mechanically super, super good, I feel like they got giga shafted just by the group draw, right? It's like the group draw being based off of placements from the previous year made it very, very strange. But the fact that LGD is there in the group together with top esports and anyone's legend, I do think that LGD as a team, I think this is a team that could maybe like progress well into like in the future in a format that allows them to, because I think anyone's legend top esports is going to top the group and they're going to move on. I think TT as well, like the main player that just stands out there is like 1xN he's just been putting in shifts for so long. I think this is a player that just belongs on a top 5 team because this guy is so damn good. He drags his team, and it's just so obvious in these games where TT is playing against like a lower end team that plain and simple, like Thunder Talk is just like 1xN is just way better than every other player in that lobby, because as you mentioned before, it's like that group is kind of weird with EDG being as bad as they are, and also LNG just completely leaving Zika behind in a prison with a bunch of like random players. So TT is probably going to get out of that group. I think 1xN is a player that just, this guy has a future for sure.
No, and actually the downside, I will say, because obviously these rosters, especially the LGD one, are not players, they're not name value. No one knows these players unless you've really gone deep on the LPL in past seasons and you know the hype around people. The one downside is this. It is also going to be brutal for teams like that, because that's exactly the sort of team that would have benefited from the old LPL formats, where you could play loads more games, you get more chances to show off and show that you're actually good and play. By the way, even that group system in summer where you'd play like the bad teams if you're bad, but then you could beat them and show you're the best of those ones, that would actually potentially have been very beneficial for some of these players, whereas instead they're just going to lose like 3 series or 2 series and then just be out of the fucking tournament, and everyone who's in the international crowd are never going to know who these guys are. But for all we know, maybe some of them actually have future. Like, there's prospects in these teams, right?
For sure, yeah. A 1xN stands out. LGD, like I think just XQW. That guy is a mechanical demon. I like their top laner as well, Sassy. I like these names. It turned out I'm just calling their mid laner XQC because it just rolls off the tongue a little bit easier. But this man's not from Quebec, so there's that. It's fun to see the players on the come up, because it's always weird, at least from my side, when I always hear the news is about how the rules are changing in terms of like players playing less in China. It's like our prospects are going to come up. It's like there are new laws in terms of if players can play, or like young people can play or not. Like, I don't know what's happening. Is the talent pipeline going to die out? Like, what's happening? It worries me though for the longevity of LPL, because everybody keeps saying, it's like, I don't have the inside track, but everyone keeps talking like the LPL is dying. It's like, this is dire if Bilibili don't win worlds. So I'm happy that new names are coming through. Like, that's a good sign always.
No, I'm with you. Right, okay. I agree, by the way. The LPL, the problem is we haven't had many of the big matchups yet, so there wasn't anything really crazy to talk about. That's why I thought we'd do like a mixture of like thoughts on the roster and then initial openings. Let's do LCK. So obviously over at LCK, there have been immediately one match that we must discuss. There's been two that were the big ones. If you don't know, we've already had Genji Hanwha Life, which is obviously a potential finals rematch. Some people think those might end up being the two best teams of the year. Like, there's a very real interesting discussion we had there. But let's start first with the obvious one, which is Dom's favorite series, which is obviously that D+. So it's not even players you actually like fucking think are good, but it's people like Beryl again. So Beryl's doing a Beryl roll and he's fucking beat T1 because that's who Beryl is. You have to understand. He just trips over and does stupid shit like beat T1. So give me some thoughts on this one because I thought this was hilarious, bro. Like, if people don't know, D+ right before this with their real lineup was losing to fucking Brion or whatever in that like preseason cup thing. So the idea they then come in and just beat the real T1. That's his classic D+. And give me some thoughts on this series, bro.
I have to say, bro, our homie Showmaker is looking refreshed, man. He is looking so refreshed. I thought last year was going to be like just a downtrend of Showmaker because mechanically just wasn't there. He didn't have, just that aura in the game where you just know it's like, oh, Showmaker just got a kill. Ooh, look at him on side. Damn, okay, this game is brewing into something. So it's incredible to see just Showmaker being in good form again. I think mechanically, this roster, the way it's been put together, is just, they are insane with the exception of Barrow, because Barrow's still a silly psychopath. My man goes like 2-8 on enemies and still wins the game.
But here's the thing with him. What they need to do is, I'll give you a quick tangent, right? You know this. You know that famously Koreans have a nickname for Hilla-sang, and the nickname is the Professor, right? But what's silly is, if you hear that as a Westerner, you don't understand that's sort of fucked up in translation. You're going to think it means he's some like, mastermind, like Zhao Hu Mata, like, my God. No, they mean in the sense that like when he does a play, because they don't understand it, if it works, they're like, it must just be like 10D chess or something, They mean like it's like you can't understand what he's doing. Bro, Beryl needs a name like that. His name needs to be like the Mad Professor or the Nutty Professor or something.
I think it already is.
What's mad is, yeah, I know he has something like that. But I mean, the reason why I say it is because I do think sometimes he looks like he's just doing like stupid picks or he's playing in a weird way, but it works more than you would think it would. It does. And so there has to be like a method to the madness, Yamato. He's not really just an idiot. Like, he's clearly got a different vision of League of Legends, right?
I do think that what I appreciate about both Beryl and Hilly is like they are so decisive. They are the most decisive people on earth, where nothing can stop them from what they want to do. Not even their teammates, not even the elements, not even if there's an earthquake actively happening, they are going to do what they perceive as good. And regardless of the game condition, it's like sometimes you need players like that take initiative, because opportunities are very few in games. It comes across as very ugly sometimes, where people are not in sync with what they are trying to achieve, or maybe the window is just wrong. But I'd rather have that in a lot of cases than just dying slowly. With this Daman roster, it's like looking back at what their problems were last year with their support situation with Kellen and Moham. D+ was a team that could lane well, and then it just always fizzled out. It's like you could never trust their gold leads. You could never trust them to progress the game.
The worst late game macro of any like world's elite team, wasn't it? It was terrible, wasn't it?
And their nickname, like basically, they were the Korean fanatic, and like that was the nickname. It's like they had gold leads, and they just didn't seem to be relevant, and they could only really win games where like the meta aligned perfectly for aiming, when it was like Zeri, Ezreal, Kaiser, and he was super good at it. But now with the changes to the map, with Atakan, everything going faster, and they can like mechanically express themselves with the addition of Beryl, I think it's safe to assume that that it's kind of working. It's working. We can see it real time as well. As everything is streamlined. We see Lucid as a player. Always knew he was mechanically super good, but where he would always falter is in like the in-betweens, in the macro aspects, being in the wrong spot. And now most of the games that we watch with D+ is just a lot of fighting around the objectives. If there's any argument for Atakan, I do think that Atakan has improved the quality of gameplay in LCK, because the games are very active, which is
boring. Fun. Yeah, true. You don't ever do the handshake slow macro game, right?
Yeah, like fuck that shit, bro. So it's like LCK has benefited from it, for sure. I think D+, just to come back to the main point, just Showmaker playing super well. The rookie that they brought in, Siwa as well. I don't watch too much LCK CL, but this guy, like in just
he's legit, mate.
100%. Just like in a region where you don't have top laners, where T1 lose their top laner and Keen is out, and they need to sign Doran. like the lists down the name, they are just not exciting enough. And Siwoo showed different sides to himself. He seems very comfortable on stage. He plays the Scion, he plays the Rumbles and the Kisantas. He plays everything that is relevant, and I think that's a good sign for the LCK, because D Plus definitely hit the ground running in a very, very good way.
My joke would be, actually, my nickname for D Plus at Worlds last year would be Korean Opera, because they were like, you get a Swiss system win, you get a Swiss system win, not you, FlyQuest, you get a Swiss system win. They were just giving out wins for free, and it didn't matter. The worst thing about their team, if you want to compare it to this T1 game, is it didn't matter if they had a lead at 18 minutes in the game. They're probably going to find a way to either fuck it up or give you a way back in. That's the worst thing of all, is when it's not even that you did like a misplay, you just you're like, do you want a chance? They would just throw you a chance for no reason. And part of the problem was, obviously, it wasn't the same roster as this. Like, I'm with you, by the way. The Siwoo guy is a clear upgrade in top lane and actually looks like a really well-scouted prospect. I sort of see what you mean by that. If you were T1 and you could go back in a time machine now, look, you'd probably actually just not fuck up the Zeus deal. But if you know Zeus is going and it's only Doran, maybe you'd have gambled on this guy. Maybe this guy could have been the new stud top player that you could build up and show how to play the game. Lucid actually did the classic trend that every pleb thinks that good rookies do, but they don't usually. A lot of rookies do have like an all right first season, then drop off second season, and then they sort of get it. This guy did the dream. He does the step up on the graph. It's just the lines go like this, and he just did this. He was good enough for a rookie. Now he's actually looking like a real prospect. And then the key thing for me is this. This is where Beryl, because like I say, I do think even though he's got a weird mind, he does have a mind for macro concepts, clearly. Like, he just understands things about like when to, as you say, take initiative, make a play on the map, do something that might look crazy, but it's actually what you need to do when you're behind or something. This is a different D+. And I've always thought, sadly, because of how the playoffs went last year and Worlds, people, if they don't watch LCK in the summer last year, you don't realize how good aiming can be. But his problem is he's not that player that has like the polish of the ruler or the great ADC that can like always carry the game. He sometimes needs, I think, like a little bit of piloting when it's in the later part of the game, because he was always famous even on KT. He could completely carry you a game, or he could be the one guy that just threw the game Jackie Love style randomly at the end of the game, and you just like, what the fuck? Why did he go in there? So I think this is a guy where if you just put an arm on this guy's shoulder, nope, not quite yet, or let him cook. That's all I need from Beryl, because I actually think I'm with you. Showmaker's the one that no one could have expected. Everyone thought, right, he was definitely not as good last year. The fact that Canyon's still dope on Genji, it makes people think, maybe Showmaker's actually the one just living on name value. Like, let's be real, he's in D+, he was always in down one. Actually, he looks like it could be a bounce back here, I've got to say, because, mate, first game of that series was fucking ridiculous. It was like over like 5 minutes. It felt like it was so quick, that game. Like, T1 put up no resistance at all. At least in game 3 was a little bit more, but fucking hell, mate, that first game was really, I was astonished. Even I'm joking when I think D+ is going to beat them. I just did that because it was a good odds or whatever. Like, they actually just murked him in game 1.
It was completely one-sided. I put Lucid in the same box as the Tarzan, Kanavi, and of course Canyon pool of junglers, because he is right now a player where you could just trust him with a damn lead.
Yeah.
Like that Nidalee game was fantastic, but there was also like a Lilia game where he played and he just drove the game completely. Like, when leads are insanely meaningful for junglers, that's rare, where they can carry that momentum forward, because you need to be able to drive the game through you. It's like your teammates need to land on your timings and be there for your timings. And thinking back where Showmaker and Canyon peaked together, that was exactly in those environments. It's like the evolution that went from 2019 down one to 2020 down one when they won the World Championship was where the cooperation of Showmaker and Canyon was really like forged into something beautiful, because before that, they were just individually mechanically talented.
Yep.
That G2 famous series that they lost against G2, they were just getting pulled apart because Caps were pushing mid, roaming top, denying Nuguri, and they were just kind of disconnected from each other. So I'm excited for this D+ kind of renaissance. I do get these vibes from old. My main concern would be like over time, as the teams, like the three kings, so to speak, that they need to beat to make it further into, of course, playoffs, if it comes down to, because the form is kind of weird. We're going to have situations where teams are going to maybe be eliminated early. I do think that progression over time is like last year when I think about Beryl, he, in my mind, was the reason why KT couldn't beat T1. It's like his goofiness just went too far. And sometimes in these series as well, when like there's like these moments where you're just getting caught on leads, it's fun until you start losing for it. And in my mind, I think as precision increases, it's very important that battle's precision also increases, because I think right now everyone is in a state where you can get away with more, where being bold gives you a lot more. But the progression, if we want to see D plus be like a contender potentially, which is very difficult considering the rosters, they need to kind of elevate that precision. And I think it, of course, starts and ends with Barrow, but that's a very tough demand to make from Barrow, you know, because he's in the pool of players like Shy. It's like, how do you coach this guy, you know? It's like, this guy is playing some other game now. You're going to tell him off. He's going to run you down to punish you. He's definitely, you know, a man in his own way, it seems.
No, he's one of those players where every team has to be a barrel team or it's just not going to function. You have to play to his strengths and allow him somewhat to cook and then just work around. Obviously, one of the reasons why I never had any faith in that KT roster team, and I only ever used to basically bet them if they're insane odds, is because you can't have barrel and pure Shik at the same time. Like, The fuck? What is that? That would be like making a team with like Illisang and fucking Malrang. Like, good luck. Like, listen, one thing I'll promise is there's going to be a lot of action, but I don't know if it's going to be good for you. They might just like I have a joke I used to say in Counter-Strike, because in Counter-Strike the economy is obviously the factor that goes against you. I used to say that when people try to like stop them game when they're losing the game, if you do the wrong moves in it, same concept as doing bad macro plays, you just snowball the game against yourself. You make it harder for yourself. Like, those guys can make you lose in record time. The difference is, actually, it looks like a way better blend in this squad. Because like we're saying, they've got like the younger players, but then they've got the veteran player. I actually think the mix is excellent. By the way, aiming is a player where if I'm their coach, I just tell him, mate, we're going to play old school ADC. Shut the fuck up, hit minions, and we'll tell you when to move around the map. You just do that. And I know this guy has the skill, mate. I actually do think he's a very underrated skill player. You definitely can carry games. You saw it here. Meanwhile, if you want to swap over, by the way, this is, look, I know it's only early doors, but fuck, this is one of the reasons, Yamato, why I actually think I've had a lot of takes on T1. I'm worse than Dom. I think they're actually not going to be relevant, this split, mate. Like, one of my main concerns I kept pointing out to people is it's not even about Doran. I'm not even a Doran hater. I think he's okay, actually. My problem is they've lost all those things that Zay's brought to the team. And I think if you watch this series right now, the question you have to ask yourself going forwards is the one I've had the whole time they made this roster, which is who's the one player every game I know can carry the game? I don't even know the answer to that question, because in theory it should maybe be Gumayushi, but I don't think they've ever tried to play that style in T1 pretty much, unless it was his meta, you know. I'm really worried for him, because I think you saw in this series that Doran's just going to have some series where he just doesn't have any impact. That's not like that. He's not solo losing you all the games, but this team, I think they will lack a bit of firepower or carry presence in this team. I'm a bit scared for T1, mate. Look, again, as we talked about with the D plus convo, it's not like they're going to be like sixth or something because of it, but it's going to be really hard to contend with those top two, I think. And actually, let's see how the other squads do. If the D plus of the world go on, they're not really going to beat Gen G, but this is the sort of team maybe they can be comparable to or above. What do you think of T1?
I think that, like, looking at T1 so far, the best performer, I think Faker played like pretty damn well. Like, usually that isn't the case. He's one that like ramps up. His spring split most of the time seem pretty damn good, but like usually Faker is not the guy that they rely on. Like, his Victor performance, he was the one like trying to drag the games over the finish line together with, of course, Owner. I think in regards to everybody else, I think that Keria, same as always. I think his Elise game was wonderful. Renata game was wonderful. But then when he was playing, like trying to play the more standard stuff, like his bar game looked very, very off against D+. It just looked like they were encountering like the same issues of the past. Looking at the issues of the past with T1, it was always, how do they secure river control and presence with jungle support pairings that require them to work together? It's like T1 were always cheating the game by playing supports that are very, very fast on the map, in Bard and Pike and Rakan and range supports in general, to gain all vision through mid lane while Owner is just farming. Owner is the type of player that wants to be 200 CS on his Vi, reach 3 items, and just 1v9 the team fight on his utility, because this is what he does so well. But when they played the melee supports, you could always see that suffering. And now the main thing is, like, in a world where you have a player like Doran, who is someone that I think his biggest strength is that his output is always kind of even.
Yes.
In a bad game, he's going to be even.
In a sense, right?
Sorry?
He's the opposite of the shy. He doesn't have the crazy peaks on the floor. He just has like the flat lines.
Just like a steady pulse, you know. His heart rate's not gonna go up too crazy. Like, you see it in the Jax game. Like, that was a Jax game where he was in a very, very good position to carry the game. He had the resources needed to, in terms of his champion, contextualized everything else in the game, and just didn't. He couldn't find the timings on the flank. He couldn't find the moments to go, which was kind of similar to what we saw with his issue in his Gnar game against, of course, Billy, where Hanwha Life lost the series. This is not what you expect from Doran. I think that Doran is a player that you just kind of, if you have a bot lane that can just drag the game for you. It's like the Doran Genji roster was with like Ruler, and they just played through bottom side and played through Chovy, and Doran was just on an island. That functioned super, super well. Now I'm with you. It's like Gumayushi, I think that he can play the carry champion super, super well. But the issue is, I think that Keria as a player, he's the carry of the bot lane. It's like Gumayushi has been picking champions to facilitate Keria for as long as we remember. It's like Varus, Kalista, like even Caitlyn. It's like all of these champions are being picked to make sure that Keria has the freedom to pick something like a Bard on 4-5, to drop the Renata, to drop these AD carry supports that he did, or the Senna even. Like Gumayushi has adapted himself to Korea, and now they have to kind of work backwards because in order to play the more carry heavy AD carry style, which is kind of tough now, all things considered, because of where the meta is, because of AD carries and crit ADs being just weak, I do think this is going to be like a very strange hole for them to kind of dig themselves out of, because T1s, how they constructed the previous year, Keria and Zeus were the carries. They were the ones that kind of warped the draft around them, and
Yes.
they won games through that when they were allowed to do so at the World Championship. And now with Doran, they kind of have to reinvent themselves, but they've tried. They tried even with the Zeus rosters when the meta was in the wrong place. They tried.
Yes.
And now the main thing that is concerning for me with T1 is that they try to pull these kind of classic T1 drafts with like classic champions that they play, but even that is not pulling them out of the hole. We had like Jin, Bard, Azir, Poppy. Like these are all standard champions that we like to see T1 on, but even that couldn't kind of cheat a win at that moment in time. So I am very concerned. I think there is a chance that T1 fall very, very early in this season, especially with how the format is, seeing as that their group side is most likely just going to lose and they have to play through kind of a lower bracket to even get into the playoff stage.
That's actually my major fear about this team. Is I always thought, Yamato, I don't know what other people think, but I think if you look at those past 2 to 3 years of T1, but obviously the last two where they were the world champions at the end of the split, if you'd have ever done like the opposite of a fearless draft approach, if you'd have told people you're only allowed to pick the most obvious meta champions and comps, T1 could never have won a worlds, bro. It's not even like the chance. Like, if you had to play just normal standard meta, that was never their style. And people will know in both of their worlds runs, I mean, there's even stories to back this up, but if you even just use your eyes, it looks like they have a key loss both times in the group stage that makes them go, oh, we can't play the meta. Fuck that. Go back. Pick champions, like you're saying, that play to our strengths. What can we do uniquely? Like, what can Zeus play in a top lane to relieve pressure from Faker? What can he do to have an interesting counter matchup? And Keria, obviously, it's about can he get out on the map? He doesn't want to be stuck in lane on Braum. Like, these players, when people kept saying that thing, like they made their own meta, it's because they had those two players. Those two players were not only extremely good as top and support, they had this insane like champion pool factor, which just changed, as you say, the way you play the map, the way the team plays. So look, I'll give you this. My mate Zabatine from Hot Point Made always loves the angle of like Order and Faker play together on the map, etc. That's true. That's awesome. Gumayushi actually, I think, has done a good job of in his meta. He can be the carry. If it's not, he can play the weak side, etc. The problem is, though, now that you don't have Zeus, first of all, it's going to be hard to unlock Kerry in all these scenarios. And if you have to just with Doran play some normal series of just we're all picking the meta champions, bro, it's going to be rough for this team. Like, you're going to have, like, obviously, we're going to talk about them in a minute. You're going to have a really hard time against Genji in Hyper Life. Like, that is going to be a fucking nightmare. Like, again, because, I mean, I just think they are better players than you, mate. I don't know how you're going to beat them straight up.
It's just this off season. It's like you always have to contextualize it to everything else that's moving around you. Like
Absolutely.
Genji, How Alive have like both teams, both rosters are like once in a lifetime rosters. It's just crazy how good they are. Like in a different scenario, let's say Zeus went to LPL and like maybe How Alive were in a position where they needed to gamble, and Doran went to T1. Maybe things would look different, but it's like the How Alive Genji rosters are. It's like it's demonic how well put together they are and what the potential is. It's like even now knowing how Duro, how good he is. It's like already from the get go, just hit the ground running, plays wonderfully, especially in the How Alive series. Like contextualizing their like just roster to that, damn, they really are hurt in this off season. What the T1 fans would say to us, Torrent, they would say, this is as far away from the World Championship as you can get, so it doesn't matter.
And as they always tell me, Yamato, even though Faker has the most LCK titles ever, and the most regional titles at 10, they always tell me LCK doesn't even count anymore, so who gives a fuck? So yeah, if you remember, you're a fool to try now. You've got to save your energy, sort of like powering up in Dragon Ball Z. This is like when you send Krillin out, it's not the main fight. Cell's not going to die now. You have to power up for Worlds to beat the final boss. Of course, that's when fucking Goku comes in. When Vegeta should have won, but the maker of the show just hates hard work, so he makes fucking dickhead Goku go, tripped over and got to Super Saiyan level 15. What were you working your life for that? I'll take this win. And then all you get if you're Vegeta is just Bulma. It's the way I don't even know that much about Dragon Ball Z, but that was masterful the way I wove all those references in.
Holy shit, bro.
I watched it when someone else was watching it. I had a relative that was watching it. I was just watching it going, that's shit. Oh, what's going on with Bulma? Shut up anyway. Vegeta's not that good. Right, so what I'm going to say is this, though. I do think that, yeah, they're in a tough spot now. So what I will say is this, Miato. What I'm really worried about is, one of the coolest things, even when T1 didn't win, was the notion that they were always top 3 at all the tournaments, weren't they? They were at every international tournament. Often they make the finals. I'm concerned, Yamato, they won't even need to get on a plane at the end of this split because they won't be at that international tournament, which is a shame because if they were, they could use one of our sponsors, ExpressVPN. Because when you go online without ExpressVPN, you would have to get this one, right? Is, dude, this reminds me so much of last year. Because you remember last year when they made the Gen G super team and everyone was like, whoa, it's a super team though. So like, they'd probably take them time to warm up and ramp up. And then straight out the gate, they were just blasting. Immediately, they were just coming out. Bro, this is why I do absolutely go way too ham on crazy name value when you're still in your peak. Because the kind of game that they had, especially like the second game, Yamato, against Hanwha looks like a fabulous roster. If Gen G didn't exist, I'd say that's the team that should golden road and win everything. But the problem is, the romance of those names isn't just in my mind, Yamato. Holy fuck, when their hands are all firing, is it going to be hard to beat this team? Like, what I said about T1, they can't play standard. This team could probably play standard and just knock anyone the fuck out. They have got crazy punching power. Like, every time I was in like a close fight, it would just be like a wipe all of a sudden out of nowhere and the game's over. This is nuts. I feel like it would look shit in a way they're probably not. Like, who can handle this Gen G team, mate?
It was absolutely crazy because it's like the biggest thing which was missing with Pays was when the draft moved you in a direction where Pays needed to drive the game. It became very dangerous. It's like he was in many spots, many times, many famous moments where he needed to be the one stepping up to the play, and you can make a montage of those moments in game 5s, game 4s, where it was a deciding moment and he just couldn't pull through. And that's fine and all, like in the context of who he is, because he's very early on in his career. But Ruler is that guy. I think that second game, it was like the closest experience I felt to JDG 2023 because everyone was bought in to the idea of
it was sick, weren't they?
It was crazy. It was just JDG 2023 through and through. It's like in terms of how even a player like Chovy played. It's like he played the tank Galio. Like we've seen his Galio in the past, but that was the AP Galio that like one-shot you with the flash, with the W flash. This one he was like building space. He was creating space, making sure that his Jinx survived against a composition that is very hard to survive against. It's like I always say this thing on stream. It's like, oh, this guy needs to play like Prime Ruler to carry this game, because like in this game there was Vi, Aurora, Rakan, Ornn, Tristana, like everything designed to kill something that is immobile in a world where there's no longer any Gale Force. And the way they play the fights together, it's kind of like they showcased already so early on, like this was the missing piece from last year. Look at what we have. And just there it is. They play a hard carry bottom lane style with Ruler playing Jinx and of course Duro playing Lulu. I think it was just a beautiful game.
I always think the reason why people who are maybe very casual fans don't understand why all the experts I know think JDG 2023 is unreal, mate. Like a lot of people even agree with me that a lot of us think they're the best team ever, mate. As in, if you had to pick one team to drop in a game in a random meta, I think that's the team that could win because first of all, they do 5-5v5 front to back team fighting. That's always worked in League of Legends history. But also, and this is one area I want to almost like pull back the curtain. You can't really coach that style of team fighting, guys. No one actually was really sitting down in a VOD review like an old Jack team fight breakdown and going, see, when he does that, you're going to commit. That's just like people intuitively playing off each other, and they just had the fucking blend, bro. Like, I don't know what it was, like the way Knight and Ruler would play off each other in the team fight. Again, it's too fast. There's no way you could be calming that. And by the way, one speaks Chinese, the other speaks fucking Korean. There's no way anyone was planning that out and charting it. They just had, it's like you just had the right pieces. They fit together, and it just fucking, the result was beautiful. It looks like, obviously, very, very early doors on this, but there's a real potential for that roster in that sense. Now, I hope people realize now why. I almost say, even though it's insane, because, yeah, Keria can be insanely impactful support, Mako. It almost doesn't matter. As long as Duro isn't actually shit, as long as he's just all right, that's going to be enough. The rest of this team looks fucking so sick the way they fit together. Like it's actually, like I say, it's kind of a dream because on paper it looks amazing, but you never know. You never know. You never know who wants to play what way, if someone wants to change their style. This already looks, by the way, both in the result and in how they're playing. Like this team looks like I would bet behind the scenes this is already the best Korean team. I'll bet they just murk all the scrims. It looks like that, mate. They have that confidence right out the gate.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think just Duro. I think it was just a perfect piece for them because in terms of what his responsibility is, it is just as you said, it just be mechanically there. And Duro's a player now. Like last year, he was top 3 on the Korean ladder. He was just destroying the ladder. Like on his debut when he was swapped in for Execute Junghoon. Then like he looked solid. Nothing in particular, but that's what is necessary. It's like he doesn't need to tell his solo laners which waves to push or when to group or when he needs to look towards. Everything is just super easy. And in terms of how Duro executed the fights, Lulu looked fucking phenomenal. And also the Leona game as well, when he had the Nidalee on his side with the Ashe, also looked phenomenal. Those are the two sides of the coin that you want to have covered, when you think about a support. I do think like his first game against in the other series where they played against who was it? Was it the Fear-X, I believe? They played against Fear-X. That one was a little bit iffy, but at that point, it's like you performed against How Alive. That's all that matters, that's all that matters. Like having fun against Fear-X. I'm not gonna put too much stock into that. So the Genji hype train is really real because they already answered like the big question. It's like when I saw Ruler and Viper just auto attacking each other on the same screen, like I just realized I haven't seen this shit for 4 years, man.
Yeah.
Like we've missed this shit. Like this has been very a long time coming to just see them basic attack each other and just seeing Ruler, you just like do like these little moments where he's spacing, Viper just a little bit. It was like that 1v1 moment where Viper took a chance on the Tristana, which I understood in terms of the game state, but Ruler just executing that and just winning the 1v1 was just so beautiful in many ways.
Right. There's one team that's a big name that we haven't yet mentioned. And you know what's perfect? I've seen this movie before, Back to the Future meme, right? Think about this, Yamato. There's a KT roster team where you look at the roster and you're like, is this even a good team? They play against Fear-X. It's kind of a bit sus. Like, what's going on here? Like it's not like Fear-X is actually that good a roster even. Then you come and they're about to play a T1 in the classic Telecom one. If anyone knows how the last few years go, you throw all logic out the window. It doesn't matter how bad KT is. They always somehow have a chance to win the Telecom war, right? This is why I want to know, since the Telecom war is what is coming up, and it's going to be this KT roster, the COS one, against T1, who's, shown like just an okay level so far. What are your thoughts on KT and this potential matchup? Is there an upset potential for KT?
This was crazy. I saw this yesterday. I was shocked. Yeah, here we go. Are you fucking kidding me? Yep, YMCA. I didn't see this. I was doing other shit. This can't be real. Keep in mind, this is day 0. Yep. There we go. Yes, the content president is right. Dude, if I was an investor, I would be putting a lot of stock in media companies right now because they are about to make bank. It is going to be crazy the amount of money that people are going to be making off of this. Is this dance in Fortnite yet? I don't know, man. Yeah, I don't think so. Did you see Pastor go woke on JD and Trump on National Prayer Service? No, I didn't see that at all.
In the name of our God, I ask you to have mercy upon the people in our country who are scared now. There are gay, lesbian, and transgender children in Democratic, Republican, and independent families, some who fear for their lives. Mm-hmm. And the people who pick our crops and clean our office buildings, who labor in poultry farms and meat packing plants, who wash the dishes after we eat in restaurants and work the night shifts in hospitals, they may not be citizens or have the proper documentation. But the vast majority of immigrants are not criminals. They pay taxes and are good.
Well, if they're an illegal immigrant, categorically, they would all be criminals because of the illegal part. What are we doing?
They are faithful members of our churches and mosques, synagogues, wadara, and temples.
Yeah.
I ask you to have mercy, Mr. President, on those in our communities whose children fear that their parents will be taken away, and that you help those who are fleeing war zones and persecution in their own lands to find compassion and welcome here.
Look at his fucking face. Unhappy man, he's like, are you really doing this right now? Are you really getting into this right now? Like, what the fuck? Of research into crypto, because now he can say, I know how the crypto scene is rigged because I'm the one that... how do people rug coins? Well, I know because I did it. Yeah.
In 2011, first terms for Trump, didn't really agree with him, didn't really agree with the way that he spoke about immigrants, especially I was not citizen yet. I didn't think about voting on the second term, but something happened. I saw that Biden took like such a comfortable backseat during July 6th back in Cuba. I don't know if you've heard about the situation.
Can you tell us about it?
So,
no idea.
I think it was 2022. There was a massive revolt all around the island.
Oh, wow.
All the cities were taking to the streets, protesting that they were sick and tired. There's no food.
I didn't even know this fucking happened. That's crazy.
There's no power. The government basically hoards all the resources, and instead of distributing them like they're supposed to, communism, they give it to like the people that.
This guy's a viewer? Are you guys serious? Like, is this actually a viewer?
With them, the agents.
Yes. Oh my God.
Like Venezuela, exactly, same thing.
Yeah.
It was violent. The police were, and there are videos of
fucking
police
hilarious.
breaking into like the house of one of the organization leaders. They shot him right in front of the family.
Yeah.
You can see like the blood running. It's really sad. I was crying throughout that entire place. Like it was tragic.
And how did Biden respond to the July 6th events?
He didn't do anything. He basically said we're not gonna touch anything revolving around Cuba. We're gonna leave them to their devices. And there's a group of Cubans that today are gonna be having a protest in front of the White House to basically encourage Trump to look at that situation and try to do something, try to help.
Yeah.
And fair.
How long did it take you to achieve citizenship?
Well, for me,
So the one guy that's a viewer from my stream is well-spoken, a legal immigrant, and has a deep understanding of political events. I think that makes a lot of sense. Wow, what a surprise.
was around
How about
6-7
that?
years. It's not hard. You just gotta know history, learn the history. They literally give you a booklet with the answers.
Jesus.
Uh-oh.
Thank you, bro. Appreciate it. Thank you. Can you tell me about your sign?
Sure. So mine says protect trans kids.
Uh-huh.
There's a lot of discourse about trans people right now. All of the time.
Birds aren't real, Yanny or Laurel. Jesus Christ. How many Funko Pops do you think she owns? I'd say at least a dozen.
Talking points being made are word for word identical to what they were 20 years ago or 30 years ago about gay people.
It's like we have mutants living among us on planet Earth.
I think if kids want to change their name, explore gender identity, do whatever the fuck they want, that's fine. If they at some point want to do something medical about it, then they can have an informed conversation with a parent and or medical professional.
And what threat do you think the next 4 years pose to that?
I mean, Trump said he's going to sign an executive order on day one saying that there are two genders. So,
Yep. Yep, that's over. This is over. He did. It's done. I think that the inclusion of trans into like the gay movement has done irreparable damage to it. And I feel like most people's problems with LGBT is 90% the T, if not more.
there's a pretty imminent threat of getting kicked out of the military, losing gender inclusive care.
Yeah.
People are going to die from this, and that's really shitty.
Transgender students in sports became a top issue on the 2024 campaign trail and now a top priority of House Republicans in the new Congress.
The only time that people, the general public, started caring about trans people in women's sports was when they started question mark winning. Like, Leah Thomas isn't even, she's a good swimmer. She's not the best.
Yeah.
There's no epidemic of men going into women's sports and sweeping competition. Like, that's not
true.
happening.
Yeah.
And also being on estrogen long term actually, like, weakens your physical abilities. And medical transition is often necessary to compete in women's sports for trans people. So, like,
hatred has won, and that
Yeah. Well, this lost. Yeah, like 80% of people think it's ridiculous. You just look up any opinion poll. Yep, that's over. It's done.
is depressing. I cried on election day. I know so many other women who cried on election day. This means that so many people have to go into hiding, can't be themselves. People are
They need to, for this Halloween, maybe they can do Make America Great Again Handmaid's Tale outfits for all the people that cried on election day. There's still a bunch of them.
like Grant said, people are going to die. People are, it's just, I'm legitimately terrified for my immigrant friends. I stay awake at night thinking about them, thinking about trans people. Whether or not you think that gay people should exist, trans people should exist, immigrants should be here or not, what I hope we can all come together and understand is that humans are humans. Maybe they did commit a crime. Maybe they do something that you don't agree with. They are still people. The mass deportations of immigrants.
hey, fine.
I wonder what, like, people like that, I see, like, I can respect, for example, I can respect the woman who gave that sermon the other day, who was, like, talking about, like, hoping that Trump would give, you know, not leniency, but be merciful on the immigrants and the migrants. because I think that that's congruent with their religion. But what I think a lot of people find to be problematic with people like this is that I wonder what her viewpoints are on people who maybe didn't take the COVID vaccine, or maybe these are people who shared racist views on social media, or people that did something that is transphobic. Like, how do you think those people should be treated? And so I think the issue is that, like, if you're going to look at this from like a religious point of view, and you're going to say everybody should be treated the same, this is what Jesus would have done, I can respect that, even though I disagree with it, because it's consistent and it is like it doesn't like it's not morally hypocritical. But with something like this, and to be fair, I am projecting. I don't know what her viewpoints on these are, but from what I've seen, I feel like there's a huge hypocrisy going on.
Supported the Vietnam War and killed a lot.
The mass deportation of immigrants is going
here we go.
to kill people.
Right? Yeah, Biden shit. Okay, great.
What are your thoughts on the whole like mass deportation issue?
Mass deportation. My wife is Mexican. Like I said, I live by the border. I love the Mexican people. There's a lot of good people. We definitely start at the top.
This guy's watched a lot of Trump speeches.
Meaning the worst, and work our way down.
He's right.
You know, necessarily not so many, all these little, people with their families or people second generation, this and that. Let's not get too carried away. We'll start with the worst and we'll work our way down. When you got murderers and rapists in San Diego County, we have not just a sanctuary city, we have a super sanctuary city.
What does that mean?
Not only can you not tell ICE.
Yeah, he's completely right, by the way.
There's a problem with an illegal alien. You can't tell them even if they committed armed robbery or rape. They're like, no, what about the poor rapists and armed robbery? We can't send them back. We can't tell ICE.
We will not allow our local resources to be used for actions that separate families.
So they don't want to use the resources, which is what they calling ICE, just because they want to protect illegal aliens. I think the people...
Yeah, this has been a huge component. I think, again, like, people can smell bullshit. It's obviously that this is bullshit. You can't say that everybody is somebody, then say a racist should be killed. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if they're saying that, right? But yeah.
People that are doing these laws are actually paid off by the cartel.
Nope.
It's a crazy conspiracy. I know. It's one thing having immigration, but when you just have a total open border, and then when they come in, they get free health care, they get free cell phones, they get free hotels when our homeless people are living on the streets. I mean, come on, people. We got to do this legally, right?
We need to have a very...
Man. Could be another viewer.
Solid immigration policies will keep attracting the best talents across the world to this land to build it up, build the economy, build companies, hire employee people. I pay tax, and I want my tax to benefit my neighbors, my country, and my children, and my neighborhood,
Obviously.
my community, right? I don't want other countries to take advantage of United States people.
Scientology.
Yeah, fucking exactly. I don't want my taxes going to a fucking migrant. I want them going to the homeless people here in Austin. I don't want them going to Israel. I don't want them going to a migrant. I don't want them going to another random fucking country. I don't want them going to the military-industrial complex. I feel like that's the way everybody feels, almost.
He's a cult.
Thank you.
Are you a Scientologist?
Nope.
Do you think
women and children.
Do you think that we're Scientologists?
Nope. Just getting the message out. That's all.
Okay, what's the worst thing Scientology's done?
They use children for auditing, so 8, 9, 10-year-olds are asking grown men about masturbation and anal sex.
That's not good. Do you feel like
hashtag save the children?
Are you hoping for like exoneration
Sounds
from
pretty
January
bad.
6th people?
I am indeed. In fact, I was down there at the vigil for the J6ers down on Freedom Corner with
expect
Nikki
that.
Withoff, who is Ashley Babbitt's mother. In fact, I have Ashley Babbitt's ashes in this necklace right here. I made this necklace with Ashley Babbitt's ashes. I made it for her and her
Andrew really found... He really finds the best people, doesn't he? He really gets the best people. That's incredible.
Husband.
This morning, new details about 35-year-old Ashley Babbitt, who was shot and killed by a Capitol police officer.
And I was down there and I was told that the word on the street is the guards were told to stay late tonight to help release the prisoners.
Are they being held in D.C. right now?
Oh, yeah. They're not far from here, a few miles down the street.
Well, thank you so much, Matt. Any message to the American people before we go?
You should go watch his movie. This guy makes some great documentaries. I went to his premiere. It was freaking awesome. Thanks, brother.
I appreciate you, Matt. Thanks, Doc. Have a good one.
If you missed it, just 5 days ago, we dropped our first ever independent film called Dear Kelly, a project that's being received quite well across the political spectrum. It explores the life, backstory, and beliefs of a man named Kelly J. Patriot, who I met
remember this guy.
White Lives Matter rally in 2021.
Yeah.
Kobe Bryant was assassinated by the Clintons.
The film was shot over the course of 3.5 years, documenting Kelly's radicalization, his quest for revenge against a private lender, and his family's attempts to pull him out of the rabbit hole and put family first. The film is currently being self-hosted and privately distributed at www.dearkellyfilm.com for the low rental cost of $5.55. So if you want to support us and see the movie, head on over. All right,
that's badass.
Back to the streets of D.C.
Oh, yeah, we are surrounded by ancient pagan symbols, from the obelisk there, which may be the biggest obelisk in the world, to the dome there of Isis, the ever-pregnant womb of Isis, and the occult mindset. That's what that is.
I think he's going a little bit too far with that one. But the first one, I could see that.
With the apotheosis of George Washington, which is that mural inside the dome, which represents that Masonic future that so many Masons are into having, where they ascend as a god into some type of paradise. It's not from the Bible, and I'm totally against all that. I'm standing here for Jesus Christ of Nazareth, the Lord of the heavens and the earth.
Okay. Wait, I'm a bit confused. You're here for Jesus Christ. However, the pagan symbology is also important.
Well, it's not important to me, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
Because
there it is.
The plan that was put in place to build Washington, D.C. was a plan, in fact, to honor the ancient gods. And the plan was not to honor Jesus Christ. The people who designed this place, the main people, were into it to honor their Masonic god, who is Satan, recorded about in the King James Version Bible.
Who do you? It's Lucifer. It's the Lucius Trust. There's like Illuminati is derivative of Lucifer, which is a like a term for light bringer. I don't want to reveal my power level about this, but yes, this is true.
I think was controlling Biden behind the scenes.
Obama was definitely a key player.
Obama?
Again? In my research, Obama is more like
No, it wouldn't have been Obama. If it was Obama, it would have done a better job.
Manager in Satan's hierarchy. He's got the World Economic Forum. He's got the UN. He's got King Charles and the monarchy. Satan. He's got so many different groups that have extreme amounts of power compared to me.
Yeah. Do you think that there's kind of like a second deep state forming around Trump?
Well,
yes.
Just protect Trump from having that happen, God. Please help him not to make the same mistakes that he made when he was the 43rd president of the United States, God.
And where do you get most of your news and information from?
Twitter.
X.
There you go.
Not just Infowars.com with Alex Jones.
Did you use X back when it was...
Man, bro. Twitter and Infowars. This guy is locked and fucking loaded. He's ready to go to war. All right.
In control of Jack Dorsey?
Well, I did, and I got suspended multiple times.
What'd you do?
Was that kind of a wake-up call for you, just having your account taken down multiple times?
I was really aware of that type of thing back in 2013 when I started listening to Alex Jones. He started to wake me up to how things really work in a general way. How we're in a war.
So this is like a 10-year wizard. That's pretty good. It's a good start.
There's a group called the Globalists, and they want to depopulate the Earth, and they want to get it down to under 500 million people.
Yeah.
And they want to bring in their new world order system, their technotronic state where you can't buy or sell without the mark of the beast. It's right there in the book.
This is this correlates to the World Economic Forum, and he's referring to a quote that was made by a Rothschild, and it was talked about maybe 15 years ago. But that quote and that conversation is very, very little known. Like, people don't really know a lot about that. They don't want you to know? Yes. And he's like 50% there. Zeitgeist. I think it was discussed in that movie, but that movie came out in like 2009. But he actually had said that way before then. Heard about this? Yes.
Revelation, the King James Version Bible. I mean, we may live in that time. We may go through it. I'm ready to die for Jesus. I never take.
Yeah, so just so you understand the full context of this. So basically, people are radicalized because they're concerned that people who are, for example, like Freemasons, who are, or you know, part of like Lucius Trust or some other form of what they consider to be devilry, are going to create a social and governmental apparatus that's going to cause people to undertake a certain object or item into their body that will then be used as a mark of the beast that will make it to where they can't go to heaven. And that's why a lot of people were worried about the COVID vaccine. And that's also worried about why people are worried about chips as well. So in case people didn't know, like Neuralink is another example of that. That sounds insane. Oh yeah, no, well that's the lore of it, right? That's how it comes from. Is this supposed to happen? Yes, and it already is happening.
Taking the mark of the beast no matter what.
What's the mark of the beast?
It could be a microchip in your hand, this one, your right one, or your left one, and then maybe it's some type of Neuralink chip in your head.
Yeah.
Or maybe something more advanced than that.
Yeah.
Some people have said.
What the fuck? I already know all these boss mechanics. Yeah, I've done this raid before. I've gone through this on Mythic before. This is not a big deal.
The nanoparticulates, or however you say it, in those bioweapon shots from Big Pharma are some type of mark of the beast thing.
That's the COVID vaccine.
Hey, man, well, I appreciate you so much. Thanks for your time, man.
Yeah.
Appreciate you. And our show's called Channel 5. Be sure to check it out, man. Appreciate you, dude.
You're awesome.
Thank you. You're awesome, too.
Thank you, God, for his life.
Yeah, man.
I love you.
You, too.
Channel 5 Live Worldwide.
Just learned something today, bro. Yep.
Channel 5 News. Channel 55. We don't fuck with custers.
Yeah.
And 5 is.
That was smart. No, he knew a lot of that stuff. I mean, I tell you guys, like with this kind of stuff, you know, if you don't know what's going on with any of this kind of shit, like I definitely do. I mean, I've spent a lot of time invested in knowing about all this stuff and hyper focusing on it, thinking about it, getting involved with it, everything like that. You know, do your research. Yes, you have to not do your research, do your own research. You have to do your own research. You can't let somebody else do it for you. And this is a great video by Andrew. I heard a little bit about his film. I'm probably going to look more into that soon, so we'll see what happens. You said your mom was an expert on this stuff? I don't think that you guys understand. So my mom was a writer. She went to college, and she had a 4.0 GPA in graduate school. She spent all day learning about crazy shit. I swear to God, she probably knew more crazy shit than Alex Jones did. Because she knew all kinds of like religious shit. She knew about other cultures, like everything. It was fucking insane. By the time that she had, like, she was watching Alex Jones in 1995. I was a little kid because we were in Austin and Alex Jones was in Austin. Like, she had things printed out. Like, she already knew everything. Yeah, I mean, like, I'm telling you guys, like, yeah, she had like all these like psychology books and like everything. I'm trying to remember. She was older. Yeah, I mean, like, and the thing is that I'm trying to remember like some more examples of it. And so anyway, so she told me about all of this stuff. That's how I know all of this. It's because, and I probably have forgotten half of that because she knew so much about it. Bedtime stories as a kid were conspiracy theories. Do you know what's really funny about that? Is yes. And I remember, so there was a barbecue place that you know is like near my house, and I went to this barbecue place and I told her that there were 2 conspiracy people talking about it, and I told her what they were talking about, and she didn't even really want to go down there because she thought they were too low level. because they were like exchanging these like two crazy guys had like these big binders full of information and they were trading them back and forth. And she's like, oh yeah, I knew about that in like, you know, like 1998 or something like that. What did you think about the planes hitting the towers? What do you think she thought? Yeah, what do you think? Right? And was your mom religious? Yeah, I was raised Roman Catholic. And yeah, absolutely. And so there it is, level 1 conspiracy theorist. No, I'm telling you, like any of my friends would tell you the exact same fucking story. Like she was really, really into that shit. Like she has, like I'm not even kidding you, probably, and like we've gotten rid of some of them because some of them got damaged by like water. She probably had, and in my house, there are probably 1,000 books in my house. I'm not even kidding you. And I'm pretty sure she read about 950 of them. That's all she did. What other conspiracies did your mom have exclusive to her? Basically, I probably, you know what? I could probably find videos of her talking about it. And if I do, I'll put them online. I will. Would you like to see the books? Yeah. And so it was crazy, crazy, crazy. A lot of stuff. RFK files are supposedly releasing today. Oh, maybe they will. But either way, this video. So yes, I know like any conspiracy theory, any of that stuff. That's how I know about it. And then also like I know stuff that she didn't know, which is the internet stuff. Like she didn't get into like the social media part of the internet really hardly at all. And so like when I see that, I know all the, like, I know probably about, I would say 10 to 20% of what she knew about conspiracy theory stuff. Like, if that. The JFK, not RFK? I know that. Did I say RFK? I meant to say JFK. Yeah, she would have been all over Twitter now, though. No, she would go to Twitter, too. She would watch just a lot, like, she watched The Usual Suspects, basically. Like, think about all the people that conspiracy theorists would watch. She would watch them. There it is. Yep. And let's see. I'll look at a few more of these. RFK was a conspiracy tool? Well, I don't know about that. I have no idea. David Icke? Oh, yeah, I knew all about David Icke. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, of course. Yeah, 100%. It's not even a question. Stopped watching TV 25 years ago. Read like 100 books. As streaming wasn't really a thing at the time. Yeah. Let me see. I'll look at a few more of these. Do you believe all the conspiracy stuff? I think that it's important to know what happened and to know the information to provide a frame of reference. But for the most part, I think that she would try to put pieces together when she didn't have the full puzzle. And so she'd make pictures that weren't entirely accurate. You know, it's like you have a jigsaw puzzle with 1,000 pieces and you have 970 pieces. You're going to kind of have the picture, but if you try to make them all fit together, it's going to be a little bit distorted. So I think that's really the case with a lot of that stuff. She would vote Trump. Yes, she voted for Trump in 2020. I remember I had to drive her up there. She couldn't even go inside the building. And they, like, actually, the thing is that the people that do voting are, like, really, they're really nice people. And they let her vote from the car. Like, they took the whole machine out there to her, and she was able to do the whole thing on her own. I can't even tell if this guy's serious. Everything that I'm saying is completely serious. Damn, I'm sorry. No, I mean, that's just the way it is, right? I mean, you get older and that's just what it is. When Snowden exposed the NSA, it validated a lot of conspiracy theorists. Oh yeah, she knew all about that. And I remember when Snowden exposed it, there was nothing that Snowden exposed that she didn't already know. Basically. And she was like, see, I told you, now he's saying it. Now do you believe me? And I'm like, okay, well, maybe some of this stuff is true. Oh, it's starting? Okay, sorry.
Well, thank you very much, and it's an honor to be here today. We have first full day as president.
We're back.
And we had a great...
Sorry, audio got fucked up.
I think we're going to do things that people would be shocked at. We're starting off with tremendous investment coming into our country at levels that nobody's really ever seen before, and they're very happy with the fact that I won the race and that they feel confident in their investments. And it's big money and high quality people.
Big money.
So my first day back from having a nice life, it's my honor to welcome three of the world's leading technology CEOs. And in the case of Larry Ellison,
he's like, oh,
well
fuck, now I
beyond
gotta work.
technology, sort of CEO of everything. He's an amazing man, an amazing business person. But to announce the largest AI infrastructure project by far in history, and it's all taking place right here in America. As you know, there's great competition for AI and other things, and they're coming in at the highest level. We're joined by Oracle Executive Chairman Larry Ellison, SoftBank CEO, my friend Masa Yoshi's son, and CEO of OpenAI, and I would say the by far the leading expert based on everything I read, Sam Altman. So that's great that you're coming in together. That's a massive group of talent and money. Together, these world-leading technology giants are announcing the formation of Stargate. So put that name down in your books, because I think you're going to hear a lot about it in the future. A new American company that will invest $500 billion at least in AI infrastructure in the United States, and very, very quickly, moving very rapidly, creating over 100,000 American jobs almost immediately.
Stargate.
This monumental undertaking is a resounding declaration of confidence in America's potential under a new
we are
president.
so fucking back.
A new president. I didn't say it, they did. So I appreciate that, fellas. But it'll ensure the future of technology. What we want to do is we want to keep it in this country. China is a competitor, and others are competitors.
Fucking Stargate.
We want it to be in this country, and we're making it available. I'm going to help a lot through emergency declarations, because we have an emergency. We have to get this stuff built. So they have to produce a lot of electricity, and we'll make it possible for them to get that production done very easily at their own plants if they want, where they'll build at the plant, the AI plant, they'll build energy generation, and that will be incredible.
Who are you going to put in Stargate 1?
But it's technology and artificial intelligence, all made in the USA. Beginning immediately, Stargate will be building the physical and virtual infrastructure to power the next generation of advancements in AI, and this will include the construction of colossal data centers, very, very massive structures. I was in the real estate business. These buildings, these are big, beautiful buildings. They're going to employ a lot of people. And physical campuses in locations currently being scouted nationwide. They're making their choices of locations. I think they have their choice.
Bro.
I'd like to ask Larry, Sam,
fucking
and
Stargate.
Masa to say a few words and just talk about a little bit about what they're doing. And
oh my God.
If you have any questions, and then we'll go into a couple of other subjects also. But this is, to me, a very big thing. $500 billion Stargate project. I think it's going to be something that's very special. It'll lead to something that could be the biggest of all. So, Larry, maybe we'll start with you.
That's really
and we'll
big.
Go down the line. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. We certainly couldn't do this without you. It would simply be impossible. AI holds incredible promise for all of us, for every American. We've actually been working with OpenAI for a while, and with Masa for a while. The data centers are actually under construction. The first of them are under construction in Texas. Each building's 500,000 square feet. There are 10 buildings currently being built, but that will expand to 20, and other locations beyond the Abilene location, which is our first location. The kind of applications that we're building, to give you an idea, maybe the most charismatic and the one that I think touches us all is electronic health records. Not just maintaining electronic health records, but by looking at electronic health records, understanding the condition of the doctors, better understanding the condition of their patients, and being able to provide healthcare plans that are much better than they otherwise would be. A doctor in Indian River Reservation would be able to see how a doctor at Memorial Sloan Kettering would treat the patient, or a doctor at Stanford would treat the patient. We actually provide all of that information, all of that guidance to the doctor. We actually provide all of that information, all of that guidance to the doctors who are treating cancer patients or patients with any other kind of disease, made possible by AI. I'm not going to take a lot of time. I'm going to pass it to Masa, but this is a very exciting program for Oracle to be a part of. Thank you.
Stargate, boys. Oh, day one.
Thank you. That's good. That's great.
Fuck.
I feel tall now. Thank you. Well, Mr. President,
this is day two.
Last month I came to
day zero. Yesterday,
celebrate your winning and promised that we will invest $100 billion. And you told me, oh, Masa, go for 200. Yeah. Now I came back with 500.
Okay.
Because this is the, as you said yesterday, this is the beginning of golden age of America. This is one great example, I think, right? We wouldn't have decided to do this.
I think so.
This is the beginning of golden age. We wouldn't have decided unless you want.
I love this guy.
And yesterday we agreed, we signed to make this happen.
This is so good.
Because of this day. So
he's just talking to him.
We would make this happen. We would immediately start deploying $100 billion with a goal of making $500 billion within next 4 years, within your term, right? Because of your success. So we are very, very excited to do this. And our partner is, of course, SoftBank, OpenAI, Oracle, and additionally investing partner with MGX.
Read this headline.
On top of that, we have the technology partner, NVIDIA, and of course, Microsoft has been very, very supportive to Sam and continue to support all our success. This is not just for business. As Larry said, this will help people's life. This will help solving many, many issues, difficult things that otherwise we could not have solved with the power of AI. I think AGI is coming very, very soon.
Ooh.
And then after that, that's not the goal. After that, artificial super intelligence will come to solve the issues that mankind would never, ever have thought that we could solve.
True.
Well, this is the beginning of our golden age. Thank you very much.
Oh my God, bro.
I don't have too much to add, but I did want to say I'm thrilled we get to do this in the United States of America. I think this will be the most important project of this era. And as Masa said, for AGI to get built here, to create hundreds of thousands of jobs, to create a new industry centered here, we wouldn't be able to do this without you, Mr. President. And I'm thrilled that we get to. I think it'll be an exciting project. I think we'll be able to do all of the wonderful things that these guys talked about. But the fact that we get to do this in the United States is, I think, wonderful. So thank you very much.
Could you just say one word? I hear so many positive things about what it's going to do for medical research and for solving things, cancer and all the different problems. How will AI help us with the fight against the various problems,
like cancer and
diseases,
shit?
These guys can maybe share more about some of the work they're doing there. I think they'll jointly be some of the leaders about driving progress here. But I believe that as this technology progresses, we will see diseases get cured at an unprecedented rate. We will be amazed at how quickly we're curing this cancer and that one and heart disease. And what this will do for
what about balding?
The ability to deliver very high quality healthcare, the costs, but really to cure the diseases at a rapid rate. It'll be among the most important things this technology does.
Great. Very good. Thank you.
So we're currently working on, should I step on this? Okay. All right. No, no, no. I'm not that tall. I'm not that tall. I'm not that tall. I'm not tall.
Bro, he just
Thank you, Mr.
exposed this guy.
One of the most exciting things we're working on, using the tools that Sam and Masa are providing, is a cancer vaccine. It's very interesting. It turns out, I'll be quick, all of our cancers, cancer tumors, little fragments of those tumors float around in your blood. So you can do early cancer detection. If you can do using AI, you can do early cancer detection with a blood test. And using AI to look at the blood test, you can find the cancers that are actually seriously threatening the person. So we can, again, cancer diagnosis using AI has the promise of just being a simple blood test. Then beyond that, once we gene sequence that cancer tumor, you can then vaccinate the person, design a vaccine for every individual person to vaccinate them against that cancer. And you can make that vaccine, that mRNA vaccine, you can make that robotically, again, using AI in about 48 hours. So imagine early cancer detection, the development of a cancer vaccine for your particular cancer aimed at you, and have that vaccine available in 48 hours. This is the promise of AI and the promise of the future.
What the fuck?
Yeah, just 1 second. We'll finish up. But these are highly respected guys. I was shocked with Larry because I don't even think Larry does this stuff. You did a very good job for a guy that doesn't do it much, right? But he's so respected, and the group, and it's really an honor.
Trump cures cancer?
For Larry to be here and do this is very unusual because he doesn't do this stuff. He doesn't need it. He does, and you don't need it, do you?
Nvidia stock?
You don't need it. But I think it's an honor to the country. It's a great honor that this group, these are the top people, that they're going to do it, and they're going to do it here, and we're going to make it as easy as it can be. A $500 million Stargate project comes in addition to a separate pledge between $100 and $200 billion from, as we know, from Masa that we talked about before. Also 20 billion from DMAC, which was great. And we have many others that are coming. Some I just announce it. It's easier, but with some, I know them, and they're so highly respected, I'd rather do it this way. Many would like to do it this way, but we're letting the world know what's happening. This is money that normally would have gone to China or other countries, but in particular China. In total, before the end of my first full business day in Washington in the White House, we've already secured nearly $3 trillion of new investments in the United States, and probably that's going to be 6 or 7 by the end of the week. Tremendous amounts of money are coming in for many things other than even AI. AI seems to be very hot. It seems to be the thing that a lot of smart people are looking at very strongly. And our country will be prospering like never before. I think that's true, and it's going to be the golden age of America. As I say, yesterday we had the most ambitious, action-oriented day of any administration in history. No, there's never been a first day like yesterday, as you know. I signed a sweeping slate of executive orders to stop the invasion of our borders. I launched a government-wide effort to defeat inflation and bring down the cost of daily life and bring down the cost of energy, magnificently bring it down. And when energy comes down, Larry, I'd say generally speaking, when energy comes down, everything else comes down. The prices of food and the prices of everything else come down. Energy is that's the big baby. And we declared a national energy emergency to drill, baby, drill, our term that we use. We're going to drill, baby, drill like never before. We ended destructive DEI mandates across the federal government and returned our country to a merit-based system and a common sense system. As you know, the Supreme Court gave us a decision on merit, where things in this country can be based on merit now instead of a lot of different rules, regulations, and things that really put our country at a big disadvantage. We permanently stopped government censorship and restored free speech that was signed yesterday. We were renamed the Gulf of Mexico, the Gulf of America. Sounds so beautiful, the Gulf of America.
There it is.
And returned the
There it
name
is.
of a great president, William McKinley, to Mount
Yep.
McKinley. They took off the name. And he was actually a great president.
That's right.
He was a very, very successful businessman.
Changed
He
the
ran for
maps.
governor of Ohio. He won and did a great job as governor, ran for president, and he won. He was assassinated, ultimately, in his second term, unfortunately. But he was the tariff king, and I don't think he was as bad as I am. I think I believe in him even more than him, but he believed in him very strongly. And he raised massive amounts of money. Our country was at its richest from 1870 to 1913. We had the most. That was when we were the richest, relatively speaking. We were the richest during that period of time. That was tariffs from other countries. And our administration's moving with unprecedented urgency and speed to confront every single crisis facing us, and we'll get the job done. And again, I want to thank Sam and Masa and Larry for being here. It's an honor to have them. And we'll take a few questions if you want.
Some of the executive orders, you would agree that it's never acceptable to assault a police officer,
Sure.
right? So then if I can, among those you pardoned, DJ Rodriguez, he drove a stun gun into the neck of a DC police officer who was abducted by the mob that day. He later confessed on video to the FBI and pleaded guilty for his crimes. Why does he deserve a pardon?
Well, I don't know. Was it a pardon? Because we're looking at commutes and we're looking at pardons. Okay, well, we'll take a look at everything. But I can say this. Murderers today are not even charged. You have murderers that aren't charged all over.
It's like, yeah, it's crazy.
You take a look at
Wow.
what's gone on in Philadelphia. Take a look at what's gone on in L.A.,
Wow.
where people murder people and they don't get charged. These people have already served years in prison, and they've served them viciously. It's a disgusting prison. It's been horrible. It's inhumane. It's been a terrible, terrible thing. I also say this. You go to Portland, where they wrapped police officers, shot police officers, nothing happened to anybody. You go to Seattle, where they took over a big chunk of the city and people died. Portland, a lot of people died. Wait a minute. And you go also, take a look at Minneapolis, 'cause I was there and I watched it. And if I didn't bring in the National Guard, that city wouldn't even exist today. People were killed and nobody went to jail. So these people have already served a long period of time, and I made a decision to give a pardon. Joe Biden gave a pardon yesterday to a lot of criminals. These are criminals that he gave a pardon to. And you should be asking that question. Why did he give a pardon to all of these people that committed crimes? Why did he give a pardon to the J6 Unselect Committee when they burned and destroyed all documents which showed that they did what was wrong, not me? Wait a minute. Why did they give a pardon to all of his relatives, his brother who made millions of dollars, to all these different people? He gave pardons. That's the question you should be answering. All right, go ahead. Yeah, please.
If I can just follow up with about your Steve, can I just follow up with that really fast?
No.
I just want to ask
Go
you
ahead.
this. You said you will.
Tell us about your meeting with Speaker Johnson, Senator Thune. Did you reach any conclusion on this one big
Pretty
spending
much. I
bill?
think we have a good situation now. It's been in some ways made simpler by Los Angeles because they're going to need a lot of money. And
Man.
generally speaking, I think you'll find that a lot of Democrats are going to be asking for help. So I think maybe that makes it more one-sided. I think we're going to do very well. Look, we're going to take care of Los Angeles. I'm going there. I'm going to North Carolina, which has been abandoned by the Democrats. And I'm going to North Carolina, very importantly, first. I'll be there on Friday. And then I'm going from there to Los Angeles. And then I'm going to Nevada. And I'm really going to Nevada to thank them for the vote, because we won Nevada overwhelmingly. And that's usually a Democrat vote. And I just want to go there to thank the people of Nevada for the big vote.
So throw
we'll
a
be
party
making
for
that.
himself.
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
The leaders of the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers were freed following their pardons yesterday. At the time, back in 2021, you urged them to stand back and stand by. Is there now a place for them in the political conversation?
Well, we have to see. They've been given a pardon. I thought their sentences were ridiculous and excessive. One of the guys took down a flag that was an anti-American flag, and he was given years in jail. I don't know the exact number, but he was given many years in jail. I thought it was very excessive. And at least the cases that we looked at, these were people that actually love our country, so we thought a pardon would be appropriate, yeah.
Mr. President, is it also true in your conversations with Republicans today that you asked them to consider recess appointments for cabinet officials?
I think, yeah, if it's needed. I don't think it's going to be needed. Marco, as you know, got passed overwhelmingly with 99-0, which is pretty amazing. Marco's going to do a great job, Secretary of State, but he just got, I guess he was the first one and just got approved. That's some vote, 99-0, and the nothing was a vote that he would have gotten if we wanted to do it. But you know whose vote that was? Who's doing a great job right now as Vice President.
Did you also talk about some sort of a trade or a deal involving wildfire relief and extension for a debt?
Well, what I really want to have done, I was talking about this with the guys back in the Oval Office. Los Angeles has massive amounts of water available to it. All they have to do is turn the valve, and that's the valve coming back from and down from the Pacific Northwest, where millions of gallons of water a week and a day, even in many cases, pours into California, goes all through California down to Los Angeles, and they turned it off. It's off now. The valve goes, it turns toward the Pacific Ocean, and all that water goes pouring into the Pacific Ocean. If they did what I told them to do, they wouldn't do it because politically they didn't think it was good. I think it's great politically. I think they're dead politically. What they've done, they've destroyed the city. What they've done to that city is unbelievable. The sprinklers, their sprinklers in there like these right here that you see, none of them had any water in them. They didn't have any water. The fire hydrants, 40% of them had no water.
Here we go.
The brush was just dry. Everything was dry. The sprinklers on the lawn weren't allowed to even be used.
Yeah.
So, you know, everything was dry, and it was an inferno. They created an inferno. So we're demanding that they turn the valve back toward Los Angeles right now. It's not even believable that they haven't done it. Just so you know, they have a valve, and it turns like, think of a sink, but multiply it times many thousands of times the size of it. It's massive. And you turn it back toward Los Angeles. Why aren't they doing it? They either have a death wish, they're stupid, or there's something else going on that we don't understand. But we want the water that they're throwing away to be used for California. And that includes the farmers of California. You know, when you drive up north, you see all of the land. I couldn't believe it. I was with Devin Nunes when he was a congressman and some other congressmen from the area, and we're driving up and we're on the highway, and I keep looking at these farms, and the land is bone dry, and then you'd see an acre, about an acre or 2 acres, with the most beautiful green plants growing in it, the most beautiful you've ever, it's rich stuff. And you look at the soil, and it's so rich. That soil is almost the equivalent to like Iowa soil. It's phenomenal. It's got no water. But the reason it has no water, I said, do you have a drought? No. I said, what do you mean you don't have a drought? Look at the thing, it's dry as a bone. The reason you have like an acre is because they say you can farm 1 acre, but no more, because they didn't want to waste water. But they throw the water into the Pacific Ocean. These people are crazy. So we're going to be issuing an executive order demanding that they immediately let that water come down through California. Farmers, even people living in Beverly Hills. Now, those people have been a lot of them are wiped out. Believe it or not, you know, they were having restrictions, Larry, you know about this. They wanted to restrict you to 38 gallons of water a day. That sounds like a lot, but it's not. When you're a rich person and you like to take a shower, 38 gallons doesn't last very long. And they have all this water, and it's really good water. Up high, Pacific Northwest. Some
water?
comes in from Canada.
Oh, shit.
A nice country, by the way. Comes in from Canada, and it comes all the way through California, and they're restricting it. You even have the half pipes, you know, the half pipes, the cut pipes, big ones, bigger than this room. And they're going all the way down, and they're bone dry, and they could be loaded up with water. No, but isn't it incredible that they don't do it? and it's to protect the Delta smelt. It's a fish that's doing poorly anyway. But I said, how are you protecting the Delta smelt by not giving it water? It's a fish. It needs water. Nobody can answer that question.
President Trump, TikTok, Mr.
Well,
President.
let me do this first.
Are you open to Elon buying TikTok?
Say it.
Are you open to Elon buying TikTok?
I would be if he wanted to buy it, yeah.
And on your inauguration,
I'd like Larry to buy it too. I have the right to make a deal. So the deal I'm thinking about, Larry, let's negotiate in front of the media.
Oh my God.
The deal I think is this, and I've met with owners of TikTok.
Oh
the
my
big
God.
Owners. It's worthless if it doesn't get a permit. It's not like, oh, you can take the U.S. The whole thing is worthless. With a permit, it's worth like $1 trillion.
King.
So what I'm thinking about saying to somebody is buy it and give half to the United States of America, half, and we'll give you the permit. And they'll have a great partner, the United States. And they'll have something that's actually more valuable because they have the ultimate partner, and the United States will make it very worthwhile for them in terms of the permits and everything else. But so think of it, you have an asset that has no value or has $1 trillion value. It all depends on whether or not the United States gives the permit. So what I'm saying is let the United
Mafia
States
tactics?
give the permit,
Yep.
and the United States should get half. Sounds reasonable. What do you think?
Sounds like a good deal to me, Mr. President.
Yeah, he can afford it too.
Mr. President, you're a president who has long said that you back the blue, but aren't you sending the message that assaulting officers is okay with these pardons?
No, the opposite. In fact, I'm going to be letting 2 officers from Washington Police, D.C. I believe they're from D.C., but I just approved it. They were arrested, put in jail for 5 years because they went after an illegal, and I guess something happened where something went wrong. And they
Immediately
arrested
shift-
the
yep,
2
there it is.
officers and put them in jail for going after a criminal.
Yeah.
A rough criminal, by the way. And I'm actually releasing. No, I'm the
pivot?
friend of.
Yeah.
I am the friend of police more than any president that's ever been in this office.
Of course.
More than 400 of the people that you pardoned, though, assaulted officers. So I want to ask you about the Vice President, J.D. Vance. He said, this is a week ago, he said, if you committed violence on January 6th, obviously you should not be pardoned. Why is your Vice President wrong?
Well, only for one reason. They've served years in jail. They should not have served, excuse me, and they've served years in jail, and murderers don't even go to jail in this country. And we had 1,500, we have 16 under review. As you know, we commuted about 16 of them because it looks like they could have done things that were not acceptable for a full pardon. But these people have served years of jail, and their lives have been ruined. And in many cases, listen to me for a second, stop interrupting. They served years in jail. And if you look at the American public is tired of it. Take a look at the election. Just look at the
4
numbers
years
on the
of this,
election.
boys.
We won this election in a landslide because the American public is tired of people like you that are just one-sided, horrible people in terms of crime. You don't talk about all the people that have been killed and what happens to those murderers. Murderers get no time. You take a look at some of these DAs.
God.
They go after political opponents, but they don't go after people that shoot people in the street. They're caught. They know where they're living. They know everything. They don't even go up to pick them up anymore. They just let them live there. They know all about it. They have their pictures. They have the tape of the shooting, and they don't even go up and you're talking about this. No, we pardoned people that were treated unbelievably poorly. In the history of our country, there's never been anything take place like this.
Wow.
They're still looking for them, but they're not looking for the murderers, the people that are killing everybody. We are, though, and we're getting them out of the country. We just started that. We're getting them out of the country, and they're going to be gotten out of the country fast. They came in illegally from jails and from prisons. They killed many people. Some of them killed many people. About 50% of them killed more than one person. They were released into our country. That's what we're focused on, not the kind of nonsense you're talking about.
You've called for a ceasefire in Ukraine. If Vladimir Putin doesn't come to the table to negotiate with you, will you put additional sanctions on Russia?
Sounds likely.
And do you think that the war should be frozen currently along
The
the
war
current
should have
battle
never
lines?
started. If you had a competent president, which you didn't, the war wouldn't have happened. The war in Ukraine would have never happened if I were president.
No.
But that couldn't happen because the election was rigged. Yeah, go ahead.
President, there's been some debate within your orbit over whether or not to keep or eliminate H-1B visas. What's your position on that? Do you want to keep H-1Bs or do you want to get
Well,
rid of
I like both sides of the argument, but I also like very competent people coming into our country, even if that involves them training and helping other people that may not have the qualifications they do. But I don't want to stop. And I'm not just talking about engineers. I'm talking about people at all levels. We want competent people coming into our country. And HB1, I know the program very well. I use the program. Maitre d's, wine, experts, even waiters, high quality waiters. You got to get the best people. Now, then you go into people like Larry, and he needs engineers, and Masa needs, and this gentleman needs engineers like nobody's ever needed engineers, right? So we have to have the quality people coming in now.
They got to build Stargate.
By doing that, we're expanding businesses, and that takes care of everybody. So I'm sort of on both sides of the argument, but what I really do feel is that we have to let really competent people, great people come into our country.
Yeah, of course.
And we do that through the
that.
H-1 program.
Mr. President, are you looking to impose tariffs on Canada and Mexico in an effort to force negotiations sooner on USMCA?
No, it's really not on USMCA. It has nothing to do with that. They've allowed, both of them, Canada very much so. They've allowed millions and millions of people to come into our country that shouldn't be here. They could have stopped them, and they didn't.
Oh.
And they've killed 300,000 people last year, my opinion.
Canada?
Have been destroyed by drugs, by fentanyl. The fentanyl coming through Canada is massive. The fentanyl coming through Mexico is massive. And people are getting killed, and families are being destroyed. I mean, the son gets killed, and the family is a basket case for the rest of their lives. I mean, I've seen mothers that thought they'd heal. They never heal. They say it gets worse with time. It gets worse with time. They lose their boy. They lose their baby. They lose their young daughter to fentanyl poisoning. And I had that talk with President Xi the other day, too, of China. I said, we don't want that crap in our country. We got to stop it. I would have stopped it. I had a deal with him where he was going to give the maximum penalty, which in China is the death penalty for drug dealing. And he was all said he was going to give the maximum penalty to fentanyl dealers. If they send to the United States, they were going to get the death penalty. And of course, Biden didn't pick that up. I had that deal all done. It was all wrapped up. We were going to have it done. And then the election went, let's put it nicely, didn't go the proper way. I'm trying to be nice about it. It was rigged. And we had an incompetent president elected, and he never followed up on that
the
deal.
type of
But he
doctor
should have
it
followed
was.
up. Because if they got the death penalty, they wouldn't be sending fentanyl to Mexico, Canada, and other places. We're thinking about that too. We're talking about a tariff of 10% on China based on the fact that they're sending fentanyl to Mexico and Canada.
How soon on those tariffs?
Probably February 1st is the date we're looking at. For Mexico and China, we're talking about approximately 25%.
Date on the Gaza ceasefire, and are you planning to travel to the Middle East soon?
Gaza.
We're thinking about going to the Middle East, not yet. We have a thing called the hostages are coming back going on right now, and they are coming back. Some of them have been very damaged. You look at the young lady with her hand practically blown off. You know how that happened, right? Did you know how that happened? When you find out, you're not going to be too happy because it was terrible. But the hostages are starting to come back. If I weren't here, they wouldn't be back ever. They would have never come back. They would have all died. If this were done a year earlier, if Biden would have done this deal a year and a half, 2 years ago, or frankly, it should have never happened. October 7th should have never happened. Nobody should be dead. But through weakness, they allowed it to happen, and then it was a disaster from them. But you go back just 6 months ago, many of these young people were living. Young people don't die like that. They're just dying. And young people aren't dying at 20.